She was here, but
Yeah.
Yes. Right at the front of the camera. It looks like a board.
Welcome. I'm going to call this meeting to order, 6 o'clock. To begin tonight, I'm going to ask Seth if you would give us an invocation, and Paul, would you lead us in the pledge?
Sure. Our dear Heavenly Father, we come before thee at the beginning of this council meeting full of gratitude for the opportunity we have to discuss the affairs of our city. We ask you to guide us to make intelligent choices that benefit the most possible in all of our decision making. Heavenly Father, we ask thee for a special blessing that we continue to receive the moisture needed to refill our reservoirs and and provide for our crops and homes and everything else that's suffering through this drought. Heavenly Father, we ask thee for a blessing upon those affected by the crisis in Ukraine and the disaster that's occurring over there. And Heavenly Father, we are grateful for this country and for the blessings we have, the freedom we enjoy, and the opportunity we have to come together in a civil body. Heavenly Father, we are grateful for all that thou hast done for us. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Going to look for a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Passes unanimously. Just as we begin tonight, let me state that the council has a very full agenda. So pardon me if I try to keep things moving along. Our first item on the agenda is public comment. Anyone who would like to make a public comment can come forward. You have 3 minutes. We do time that. Is there anyone who'd like to start? Okay, seeing none, I'm closing public comment. Looking for an approval of minutes for February 8th, February 22, March 8th.
So I'll vote to approve the minutes, but with one correction.
Okay,
On the February 8th minutes. So in the packet, page 11, line 27, I think there was just a misstatement. It says Councilmember Savage approves Councilmember Savage's recommendation. I think that was supposed to be Councilmember Savage approves Councilmember Teague's recommendation. So.
okay, is that acceptable to all?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, so I have a motion to approve with that adjustment. Any other? Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Mayor, we did just have one emailed public comment.
Oh, okay.
Do you mind if I read that into the record?
Yeah, I will reopen public comment for the one.
Okay, this is from Brooke Rice. She says, who will pay for the cost and installation of the new secondary water meters? Will this cost be absorbed by the homeowners by way of being individually billed or by taxes being raised? How and when will homeowners be notified when it is their turn for the meters to be installed? Will there be a separate fee structure in addition to the existing secondary water fees the homeowner already pays? Will homeowners on large properties, such as half acre, be allotted a larger volume of secondary water usage than a homeowner living on a smaller parcel? This feels like homeowners who intentionally purchase larger properties for the ability to grow their own food are being penalized. Watering my garden once or even twice a week is not realistic, as many vegetables require more water than that. Fruit trees that are not well established also require more frequent watering. With the cost of everything in our lives grossly increasing due to out of control inflation, penalizing homeowners by also raising their water rates is not helping our community. Very respectfully, Brooke Rice.
Okay, thank you for that. I would direct her to listen to the work session tonight as we are addressing several of those issues, and she'll get a response. Item number 4, introduction and swearing in of new fire department employees. Chief Byington.
Council, Mayor, thanks for letting me have a little bit of time in your busy agenda. I wanted to introduce our newest full-time firefighters and then have them sworn in. And so as I call their name and read out a little bit about them, I'll just have them come up. First one is firefighter paramedic Trevor Haycock. He was hired in January of 2022. However, you've probably seen him around because he's been with Syracuse City since 1998. Sorry, since November. He's got 20 years of experience, and most of that's from Layton Fire and right here in Syracuse, so homegrown. The next one is firefighter paramedic Scott Turmo. He was hired in January of 2022. He's been employed with Syracuse as a part-time firefighter since August of 2018. He brings over 20 years of experience from the Layton Fire Department and Gold Cross Ambulance in Salt Lake City. Firefighter paramedic Olivia Van Winkle, hired in January of 2022. She's new to Syracuse, but she brings several years of experience from both Gold Cross Ambulance in Salt Lake City and Okaloosa County EMS in Florida. Firefighter paramedic Jessica Campbell couldn't make it tonight, so I'll have her in another meeting in the future. Firefighter EMT Shiloh Cromer, advanced EMT Shiloh Cromer, hired in February of 2022. He's been employed with Syracuse City as a part-time firefighter since November of 2019. He brings nearly 7 years of experience from Layton Fire Department and Northview Fire District. Firefighter paramedic Mike Graham, hired in February of 2022. He's new to Syracuse. He's also a resident of Syracuse. He brings over 20 years of experience from Layton Fire Department and Weber Fire District. And firefighter advanced EMT Kason Newman, hired in February of 2022. He's new to Syracuse. He brings a couple years of experience from Mapleton City Fire and Payson Fire. So a little far on the south side there. So anyway, these are new firefighters, and Cassie, you take a second and just.
While she's walking up, welcome.
Yes. Glad to have you.
All of us.
Around here, I guess.
We are grateful to have you here.
I kind of feel bad for Layton, though.
I don't.
I hear it all the time.
Okay, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Utah, and that I will discharge the duties of my position with fidelity. Okay, congratulations.
Thank you. We are very grateful to have you here. Next item, introduce new Public Works Department employees. Robert?
Council, I'd like to introduce you to Josh Broadhead. He's been with us for 2 months so far, but he is our newest employee at Public Works Department. He replaced a vacancy from a previous employee who left in January. So, but Josh comes to us with a wealth of experience from both the retail side, dealing with customer service he was a service manager or store manager at Cal Ranch. He also has a lot of experience working on a farm using farm equipment. He's not afraid to get his hands dirty. So he's excited to be with us, and we're happy to have him.
Welcome.
Welcome. Glad to have you. Josh.
Next, we've got a recognition award from the American Council of Engineering Companies.
I have Robert stay up here for this. So recently, Robert and our city engineer, Brian Bloman, came to an award ceremony from the American Council of Engineering Companies, who awarded the city for an Engineering Excellence Award for our 3 million gallon water tank that was just constructed a little over a year ago now. But this is the plaque that they received on our behalf. I'll let Robert talk about a little bit about the unique components of what makes this a special and award-winning water tank, if you want to hold that. But I also wanted to highlight the fact that we have a piece of infrastructure that actually inspired art by someone. The president of the company, his daughter, went and saw the water tank and was inspired enough to do a watercolor of this tank. So that's hanging up. It's actually a really good job. This is hanging up at Public Works for people to see. But I just wanted to recognize the fact that we received this, and thanks to our staff down at Public Works, JUB, our consulting engineers who helped with the design and inspection. Our finance advisors who helped us put together the financing, Zions Bank, and and the council for seeing the need and the vision for providing the water storage needed for the city. So, go ahead.
Yeah, so the tank was built for twofold. One was to replace our 1 million gallon water storage tank, which was built as just a cylinder standpipe, where only the top half of it was useful. So we only got about 500,000 gallons of usefulness out of that 1 million gallon tank. So it replaced that. The second advantage is the entire tank is elevated. So the entire water storage is now useful for us in firefighting and for our indoor water use. So we're happy about that. The other improvement we have with this tank is the old tank just had one pipeline going into it. So as water came in, it would use the same pipeline to come out, in and out. So this new tank has one pipe going in, one pipe going out. So the advantage to that is you get fresh water circulation in the tank. There's also a mixer in the tank. So not only do we have more storage, but the water is not sitting there stagnant. It's fresh. It's moving in fresh from the main in the road and then back out. So huge advantage to our city for that. Beyond the fact that we have an additional 2 million gallons. So anyway,
Thank you.
Happy to have it. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a public hearing, consideration and/or action on requesting a fee waiver for the Utah Cold War Veterans Foundation. First, I'll open the public hearing. If anybody would like to speak to this item. We have already been introduced to the item. The request has been made and presented to council. Seeing none, I will close public hearing. Council, I will take a motion on this since you've already heard it, if you're prepared.
I'd actually like to discuss sponsoring this event as was written up in the discussion about this. That's one of our options.
Okay,
I think it would be great to not have them have to request it, kind of like what we've decided to do in sponsoring and being part of the illumination event. I'd like to do something along those lines.
Agree. I think doing this ongoing, so they don't have to come back every single time they want to do this. Doing it for like a 5-year period and just allow them. Do we want to set a limit on how many times a year? I think I heard 3 times a year is what you've done in the past. So how about just allow for 3 times a year for a term of 5 years for now?
Offers them up a peace of mind too, that they have the location.
Then they know what to plan on.
Yeah, I like that.
I think that's a great idea to go. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the Utah Cold War Veterans Foundation to be a sponsored event 3 times a year for the next 5 years from Syracuse City, sponsored from Syracuse City.
I would second that.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 6, consideration of adoption of resolution R22-15 of the City Council of Syracuse, Utah, authorizing and issuance of sale of not more than $8,500,000 aggregate principal amount for secondary water irrigation bond.
All right, let me give you a little back history. So this is the water reservoir we've been talking about over the last few months. The total cost of the reservoir is estimated about $11.5 million. Of that, we actually received a $2 million grant. And we also have $1.5 million in impact fee in cash that we can use to pay that down to an $8.5 million borrowing instead of 11.5. So this is a super parameters resolution. We've done this before with the water tank. What it gives the administration the ability to do with the council's approval is go out to bid for these bonds with certain parameters. So 8.5 is the max. My expectation is not more than around 8.1 million. $8 million for the actual cost of the project and about $100,000 for financing of the bond. There's two different methods we can do. Direct placement is what we're recommending. The feds have signaled that they're going to raise rates 6 times this year. They've already done it once. So we feel it's advantageous to go for direct placement. It will cut off about a month worth of the process. And if we get the approval tonight, we can actually go out to bid tomorrow for a 2-week period and then lock that in at the end of, well, probably the first week of May is what we're looking at. So trying to cut down the time so we don't miss out. The rates have been slowly climbing over the last couple of months. 2.8 or 2.75 to 3% is the range we're looking at for the credit that we have. The municipal advisor here tonight is Mark Anderson. He's with Zions Public Finance. Gilmore Bell is our bond counsel. And then in the packet, I'm not going to go through the rest of the details. It does give you a timeline of the construction, the bonding, and the completion of that water reservoir.
Okay, there was quite a full explanation in the packet. I hope everybody was prepared with that. Is there any more debate? I think that this is an amazing position to try and get the rate before it jumps again.
Yeah, and I've been reading a lot about what rates are about to do, and
Yes.
we're
So we had originally discussed the potential for using some ARPA funds for this as well.
And that's still a possibility, but this
This is just an
locks
NTE.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, okay,
Mhm.
I'm good with that. I'll go ahead and make the motion.
okay.
To adopt resolution R 22-15 of the city of us, authorizing the issuance and sale of not more than 8,500 or 8.5 million aggregate principal amount of secondary water irrigation revenue bonds, series 2022 and related matters.
I will second that.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimous. Item number 7, authorize administration to award contract for 2022 road improvement projects.
So council, we have put a bid out and we've received 4 bids for road construction project. These are for roads that are already in our current approved budget. So it's paving streets. Bids were open March 29th. The low bidders Granite Construction at 1.3 million. It's a lot of money, but you can see the budget table that's listed there. We came under budget by 265,000 under budget. So this is good. The bids were good, and I bring it to you to see if you would consider an award.
Any discussion on this?
No, that's the outcome we're looking for. I
Okay,
would
I'll
recommend
take
we-
a motion.
I move that we authorize the awarding of the contract for the 2022 road improvement project to Granite.
second.
Motion moved and seconded. All in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous. Item number 8, proposed resolution R 22-16, restricting and regulating the use of pressure irrigation water during 2022.
I got a lot of things tonight. All right, so council, it's no surprise to you that Utah is still in a drought condition, not as severe as last year at this time. However, reservoirs are still about the same level this year as they were last year. The one advantage that we have is the soil moisture is some of the highest right now that it has been in the last 30-year average. So the snow melt and the precipitation we get should end up as runoff into rivers and into the tributaries that feed Echo and East Canyon reservoirs. All right, so that being said, we still are facing drought restrictions from our water suppliers. So this is not something they like to do. It's basically a way of trying to manage the low volumes of water that is stored in the mountain reservoirs. So our restrictions, we're going to see approximately an overall reduction of about 40%. Last year was about 54. So it'll be very similar to last year's water allotment. Now, I say overall 40% reduction. That's because we have some water from Weber Basin and we have some water from Davis Weber. There's more water available from Davis Weber and we have more shares there than we have in Weber Basin, but the combined is about 40%, if that makes sense.
Can you tell me really quick, what was last year's Weber Basin decrease?
That one was only 20% decrease.
Okay, and then
last
this year it's 60.
year. 60, yep.
Thank you.
They just sent out a thing today that with their water restrictions, did you see that about actually like an hour before I got out here?
Yeah, they published what their restrictions are and they are enforcing them too. It's
So
they-
for like new construction that has like the 30 days to put new lawns and stuff like that, how is that going to affect it?
Weber Basin is saying that they are going to treat new landscapes equal to existing landscapes
And just say it's.
and enforce
All new
it.
landscapes must adhere to our watering restrictions.
Yeah, so they're treating everyone equal, whether they have a new
Right.
landscape or not.
Okay.
That's,
So just for clarification, though, keep in mind that Weber Basin has a wholesale water arm and a retail, and that just applies to their retail customers. This is for the public. So that those restrictions don't necessarily apply to Syracuse City customers because we regulate that.
yeah, so we can set our own restrictions separate from any other water company around us because we have 100% for full control of our secondary water system. So I come to you with ideas of what we could do, considerations. I feel at the very least, we should do public information. And I did see that it was very effective last year with being able to manage our water system the way we handled it. And we created some very unique ways to manage it better. Some was using the quadrants with the blackout days. That was very effective. The enforcement was very effective. The flip your strip that we were doing, I think was effective too. Public education. So there's multiple things that we did that helped it to become successful for us last year. I think if we do some of those similar things.
Okay,
That
so I'm going to jump
will
us
help.
forward just a little bit. Sorry, Robert.
Go ahead. No, go
We
ahead.
had this as a work session item, and we did kind of settle on multiple of these items. So with respect just to time,
Go ahead.
we did go through this. So,
Yeah, but we've got questions since
right,
then.
and so
So-
I'm opening it up. I'd like to get to that point.
So as far as when people call in for to make a complaint, like their neighbors over watering, it's a very broad description of what someone can and cannot water in that time frame. How do we enforce it? Like, how do we actually go out and say, hey, this is wrong and you shouldn't be doing it this way? And like, oh, well, we have to water 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. Like, how are we going to enforce it?
I think that we need to start by noting that we're not enforcing it by a neighbor reporting it, but that's.
I
what gets
understand
us-
that,
Yeah,
but that's.
well, I mean, for the
The
public.
city finds
is-
out somehow that it's happening.
Right, but for the public, that's not our.
Don't call and tell on your neighbors.
It would
How do
seem
we
that
enforce it?
Yeah, so any phone calls or notices we get, we don't want people to think that it's falling on deaf ears. So we respond to it by sending out a notification, just door hanger, which gives them information about what the restrictions are. Because there's a lot of new people that move in, whether it's the new subdivisions or older subdivisions, doesn't matter. So people genuinely just may not know. So we take advantage of that by just putting door hanger on the door so they know.
So there was the Utah Department of, gosh, I can't remember it off the top of my head, but a lady made up some flyers on how to drought train your drought resistant lawn. And her information is spot on correct. Even the state republished it for her. And I think if we utilize those and make it readily available to people, it'll really drastically help people in understanding how their lawn grows. So that kind of helps if we can add that to the door hanger.
Yeah, if she's
Like
willing
that
to
website.
share that for us to put it out there, I'd be happy to.
Awesome.
And we can
Yeah,
share
just
that
add
on
it
our
on the
website and
area.
other places as well.
Okay, that was my question.
was So in regards to the restrictions from the water district, their recommendation for their retail users, is the new plantings the only difference right now between what we've, and also, I guess my second question is, this year, the only difference is the days being more restrictive between the period and the season changing slightly. Is that correct?
So I know one thing we were talking about was doing a 1 day a week
Yeah, so the days being.
in May up until Memorial Day, then go 2 days a week from Memorial Day to Labor Day, and then back to 1 day a week.
I guess I'm just saying, like, for our citizens, the only difference they're gonna see is just the reduced between the periods in the early season, late season.
Yeah, that's right. Last year, we started
It'll look the
May
same.
1st, and this year we were talking May 15th, and just saving that water for where we really need it in the heat of the summer. So yeah.
And then as far as the new plantings restriction, is that the biggest? I'm just wondering if there's any other restrictions that we're missing that they would
So,
recommend.
On our, I think we already have, so they
Well-
restricted within 30 days of you moving it? Because right now, I think we give them like
We give them.
No, they're-
18 months or
they're-
something like that.
Well, so they're treating it though the
That's like
same
30
as
days.
any
There's a
other
lot of
watering.
things I
They're
don't
saying you
That
So,
would be a policy of that.
cannot
development,
overwater
not
it
the
to get
city.
new plantings started.
so you as a council can decide.
Sorry.
Hold on, I think there's too many conversations.
Sorry.
I didn't hear what Seth and what you answered.
I just said, you as a council can decide how you, I have not written anything in a resolution, but we can certainly modify it based on what you decide to do. There's nothing in there right now about regulating new landscapes, but it's certainly
Well,
worth a
and I'm
discussion.
okay with not being as stringent on the new plantings, just because we've had, I mean, we're going on now 2 years.
Right.
And we've
And
got to
as
have
a
some
city,
people.
we're
Not doing it.
Yeah.
So we,
So we don't have to stick with that.
right, but if an HOA puts a more stringent requirement on their people, that doesn't come from us, and we really don't control an HOA.
But doesn't the new
We've actually
legislation
talked about
overrule
controlling
that?
HOAs.
We have talked about it,
Yeah.
but we don't right now. We don't have that power yet.
I think the
What?
new legislation says we do.
So there was a new House bill that got passed
Yeah.
Did it
that,
get signed?
well, I suppose it did.
That's, okay, that's
Where it reduces the powers of HOA
right.
that try to control the landscape requirements. So
Can you tell us where we stand on culinary? Last we spoke, they said 10% decrease this year. Do you know more about that?
no more than what you already know.
Okay,
So
so we're still, it still looks like we're,
Well,
And we'll go into.
that's another, we'll hit that in work session.
okay.
So
Any other,
I do think the spot watering, if they're, can we say something in ordinance or in some kind of regulation that says if they're present for it? That's one thing. It's another if you walk away from it and 10 hours passes and you forgot you turned your sprinklers on your garden,
Which happens.
which happens all the
lot.
time. Yeah. So maybe we can say something in there about if you're present, you can
Or no
you can do it.
unattended.
Is that
No
referred to-
unattended
Wait.
spot watering.
I
Attended.
don't understand what you're saying.
So you know how you'll turn a sprinkler on a dead spot and you don't realize that it's been on 10 hours later and you come out and you've had your water on from morning till night.
And you're
And that's spot watering. So that shouldn't be allowed, but if they're present for it, because we're talking about regulating everything. So
Oh.
you should be able to turn your water on and stay present there while it's watering and then turn it off.
I believe that distinction is called hand watering.
Yeah, well, or
And
you could
have to
even.
physically be there to do it.
Yeah, just being, but if you turn your sprinkler on and you're present for it, if you stay there,
Lawn chairs.
yeah, exactly. Drinking your drink and sitting there watering. I'm just
we have
wondering if that's
I-
something we
I
can
was
put
just
in.
gonna s- Would it be more advantageous to do a time restriction? Would it be more advantageous to do a time restriction on spot watering rather than say you have to be present to monitor it?
Well, I think that's what she's saying. If
Yeah,
you
but-
set it for a time and you walk away from it, and if you happen to forget about it, then now it's run all night long.
But either way,
But if you're there, you're not gonna forget about it because you're watching.
I think what Paul's suggesting though is that if we set a time limit on that and you exceed it, then that kind of covers walking away or forgetting or.
But that requires someone to be there with a stopwatch for how long they were watering.
Well-
It's really easy to enforce hand watering as opposed to,
It's one of those.
I feel like
out of
that's
sight,
been
out of
on there 3 hours.
Yeah.
Prove me wrong.
Okay,
mind. It's one of those out
Yeah.
of sight, out of mind things. your eyes aren't on it.
I think if the intention is really to curb our water use, then the best thing to do is say be present for your spot watering, because that makes me have to enforce myself.
But I guess, is there something in here that says no spot watering? I'm not clear.
Yeah, well, let's see.
So there's nothing right now. We're making that resolution, so we would include.
Okay, I was wondering if that was something already in there,
It's a
and
possibility.
sorry, I'm just trying to, I didn't remember that one specifically.
Well, is R 2216, the language there, is that not kind of what we're looking at already as it is?
Probably.
Yeah,
I mean, it looks like that is the sample resolution.
We're just looking for spot watering in there. Are we adding that?
So
we
we've
would
got-
add that.
Yeah, I don't see it in there right now, so we can do what you'd like.
Okay, so you're recommending we add,
I just had people say, can I plant a garden? Because I've heard that we're going to be restricted. And I said, I'm sure you can, and she said, because if I plant it now, it will die if I'm depending on my sprinkler system to catch it once or twice a week. She was just talking about, she wasn't talking about any kind of system, just sprinklers in general.
Yeah.
And so I said, I'm sure you can hand water it if you're careful. And so maybe if we put that in ordinance to say, so that people know, just like the public comment we had earlier that is concerned about planting gardens.
Maybe we could do something that's directed specifically to food-oriented
Uh-huh.
plants, human consumption plants.
Well, so letter J in the R 2216 just
Yep.
says,
I just saw that too.
yeah, doesn't exempt out for the new landscaping, spot watering, or diagnostic. So sprinkler repair.
So it is an ordinance, like you mentioned. So it just describes that would be an exception that's allowed by ordinance. And
Could we just add attended spot watering?
I think that's how it is in the ordinance. Paul, could you find it faster than me?
Like in the packet or in?
No, it's in the code.
Oh,
So it
okay.
actually says it doesn't involve that, right? So we don't have to address it if we're not concerned about it.
It's for,
Robert, I think I have it here.
do
It's
you?
4.25.130 subsection F. And it says the following are not violations of this section. Watering necessary to establish new gardens or landscaping such as sod or grass seed, attended spot watering using a hose,
sounds like we're covered.
and incidental use for purposes of diagnostics or maintenance of irrigation systems.
Okay, great. So that's already in there.
So if
Attended
you're
spot
happy with that,
watering.
we can keep it like that. Or if you want to modify anything, you can put it in the
I
resolution.
think we just need to add that one word attended to the sample resolution here. And that would match exactly what it says in the,
Sounds like you're ready to make a motion here, Seth.
sure. I move we approve. Oh,
Go ahead.
okay, sorry. I move we approve R 2216 with the addition on letter J, adding the word attended to the spot watering statement.
Second.
Motion moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, resolution R 22-16 passes unanimously. Item number 9, proposed resolution R 22-17, adopting an updated emergency operations plan for Syracuse City. I believe that's you, Brody.
So this was already presented at the work session. If you have any further questions, we can go through it.
Okay, if nobody's got any questions, do I have a motion?
I move that we adopt Resolution R 2217, updated emergency operations plan for Syracuse City.
I second.
Motion moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. I'm going to suggest we have some pretty deep subjects here and, well, never mind. I was thinking we had another public comment after a work session, but we don't. So I'll go ahead and open up to public comment here. Seeing none, I will close public comment. That's taken care of. I would move that we move council assignments and announcements to the end of the work session. And I will put us in recess to reconvene in the large conference room in 5 minutes. Hope you'll join us. This is where the fun really begins.
Come on, Dave.
Oh, sir.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing good.
5-minute recess is up. Seth has got to have to hustle.
Who is Seth hustling?
Okay, so I'm going to call this a work session to order. And thank you, because I'm expecting some tough discussion here. So item number B, discussion regarding culinary water rates. I'll begin this by saying that last time we met in work session, we talked about what we would possibly do and what the data might tell us. So we had Robert and Steve pull some data, and they got together. Brody and I were there to hear what that reflected. What we have in the packet is a possibility. I will mention a couple of things. While I was expressed in the last time we did this, there were 3 distinct tiers. There were not in this set of data. It wasn't as obvious, but the reason that there are 3 tiers in the proposal is because when we got talking about what would motivate people to reduce their use, would be that there is a tier achievable below where they're at. So by making 3 tiers, effectively, if you take the 4,000 and under crowd and ask them to be the 3,000 and under crowd, and you take the 8,000 and under crowd and tell them that they can either be the 6,000 and under crowd with a similar rate structure, or they'll have to be the 9,000 and under crowd, which would pay essentially for the ninth or the extra 1,000 gallons. You are kind of driving the behavior you want through that. So the rest is based on a couple of factors. One was we asked the question, if we use the same water that we used last year, how would we have a rate that would pay for the overage we would be charged? This does not cover that. Even though these are exorbitant rates for those who get really high in usage, we still wouldn't cover that. This plan kind of depends on people working to reduce their usage so that we don't have as much overage. And I think that that's doable. As just in order to have the, what was the figure, 200 and, or yeah, 2.7 or 270,000 penalty, we would have to charge even more than these rates, which seems fairly high. I will note a couple of things to point out. The lowest group, what we did was, we did the same thing we did the last time. We created a lower group for the city, and that was we kept the rate that we had and only added the increase that is the pass-through from our service charge. So that would only add the 35 cents. To the second tier group, we added what we already charge for the second tier group, plus twice the added pass-through, just to offset that a little more and encourage people to try and drive down to the lower group. And so then after that, we had significant increases for each 1,000 gallons, because we realized that the data told us that like 85% of the city is served under the 9,000 gallon mark. So we're serving almost everybody with the lowest possible opportunity. It's those people that say, you know what, if I'm going to use 30,000 gallons and that you're just not going to stop me, then their bill is going to go up, and that's what is reflected in the proposal. So now that I've explained where we got there, feel free to go anywhere else if you or suggest anything else. But this was the logic that we used to start the program, and it was based on real data. I'll open it up for discussion.
Well, if the vast majority of our city is using the lowest tier, I love the idea of giving us a bump down for people to have something to kind of look for, because if we're all sitting in the same area, you don't feel like you're a super user. So I like the idea of saying, hey, we're giving you an extra tier. If you can decrease your water by this much %, then first of all, you benefit the taxpayers because we don't have to find $280,000 that comes out of your pocket. And secondly, it actually benefits you monthly because your bill decreases and you're helping save our water.
I agree with that. Being probably the only person at this table who goes over 9,000 at least once a year, I agree with this also.
Okay.
I think it's fair, and I think it's responsible on the city's part to be fair to all the citizens in retrospect of how much water they're using for each location and each home. And me being someone who at least once a year, like I said, goes over 9,000 gallons in a month. I think this is fair. And I think it's responsible of us to make it fair this way to encourage people to want to keep it under on the other side.
One other consideration we had was we asked ourselves, what bracket do you fall in depending on family size? And we figured that a family of 4 could easily be under the bottom tier. So that's.
Can I give you an example though?
Go ahead.
There's 4 people that live in my house, 3 adults, 1 teenager. And I also water 5 horses and a bunch of birds all summer long off of that. And it only once goes over the 9,000 mark. So that's a lot of water.
Yeah. So the other thing is, we had this second tier of up to 6,000. We figure most families of up to 5 kids can probably still fit in that.
Oh, yeah.
And if you've got maybe a family of even 10, you can still fit in the 9,000 gallon mark. Realizing that it wasn't just truly exponential, because when you get that size family, you have to start doing things like combining laundry and shorter showers, because there's not going to be enough hot water. So
Yeah.
we took that into consideration and tried to think that the average family user would still fall in one of all of the 3 standardized brackets, so their bill wouldn't change every month. It's those that have out of the house uses that probably go over. So there was some thought to that. I want that to just be.
And that's clear in here. That
Okay.
the way these are broken down, and I've read through this pretty well, the way they're broken down, it's very, some people be like, oh, well, I just hit 9,001, or I just went over 1. Well, it doesn't, that's an excessive amount of water. And the way it's laid out in here, it's very fair across the board. And you can tell there was detail put into it just because of that. And adding that extra tier to give people that don't use as much water the incentive is even better.
And we do actually, people who are just slightly over by a gallon or 2, we don't go to the next tier, 1,000
Adjustment.
gallons for that. We're very.
Consider it like that.
Yeah, we always have been.
Oz appreciates that too.
And I think anytime you can motivate people to do better,
Mhm.
it's a benefit. There's easy ways. I hope you guys have all ordered your free kit that
You got your link.
you got the link. So go get the link, put on those, my teenager that takes 45-minute showers. I was struggling to change behavior, so she got the low flow shower head. So
How
it
did
is what it
work?
is.
Did it work?
Did it work? Yeah, was
Uh,
it effective?
So she still takes 45-minute showers,
minimize
but it
the
uses
emissions.
half of the
Not
water.
using as much.
So it's still a win.
I was gonna ask if she takes 1.5 hour showers.
Yeah.
I will
She
say
said
I-
she really didn't notice a huge difference.
That's
Obviously she's not.
Good, she doesn't care. I've been much more, just since we talked about it, I've been so much more aware of waste in my own life.
Me
Just
too.
instead of running the water till it gets hot, I'll throw it in the microwave for 10 seconds or whatever. If I'm trying to do something and I'm turning it off to brush my teeth and not, I don't know, everything about it. Just if you're aware of it, it changes behavior.
Well, what I noticed is when I put a low flow head on my faucet, it was significantly less water, but my toothbrush still got just as wet.
Just as wet. The water still worked as well.
Does it just seem like there's a
Either way.
little more oxygen in the water also, so it makes it bubbly?
So I
Like,
guess
it
what I'm
kinda works
saying
better.
is I understand that this is, if you're a high water user, this can be a little onerous.
It is.
But at the same time, I think we have to do better. And we have the cheapest water in the nation,
Yeah.
and yet we have the least amount of water. Well, maybe not the least amount, but we have a limited supply.
Brody brought that up too, your comment about
Second least.
water cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
So
is hugely
Yeah,
responsible. on
water's
our part, I
cheap,
think.
actually.
Super
Even though
responsible.
we could charge a lot for high water users.
Yeah.
Water's still very affordable for even the highest water users. I will say the proposal is that we would model businesses similar, but we would have higher brackets. We're not 100, we were looking to pull more data before we have that 100% sure.
okay, I
But
was
maybe
gonna ask you about
brackets
that.
that start with 10,000 gallons and then go up. We still have one or two users that are, could be 100,000 gallons a month, like the car wash. That's just, it is what it is, and they're gonna have to pay for that accordingly. The other thing that Paul brought to my attention, and I will bring this forward right now, because it came just before this meeting. Our proposal of being 15% higher for non-residents is probably a little steep, because by law, we can only charge what is truly different about serving a non-resident. And so with that limitation, there's still, I think, some change, because we do have pipelines that we would not have, which is maybe a mile of pipe that we would not have if it weren't for serving non-residents. So that requires additional maintenance and service that they would have to pay for individually, but probably not 15%. I was just kind of thinking in general that, look, everyone who is a non-resident really could be a resident, and they're using all of our services, but that doesn't work that way. The law does not provide that as an option. So we will not do that. Paul, thank you. So we have to revisit that one, but it's probably, it would have to be based on validity. And I think that we'll find that those pipelines are, I don't know what did we find last time, 3 to 5% more cost or something. So it would be very, but that's all we legally can do. So we'll have to revise that number.
I like being legal.
Yeah, me
Well,
too.
we do too. Paul happened to be on vacation when we had this meeting.
I'm
so-
glad you're back, Paul.
Can we let him do that?
We do.
By law, we have to do that too.
All right, so council, where do we go from here? Do you like the general plan for the general rates of average residential use? Or do you think it needs more fine tuning?
I think it's a lot of thought into it. I'm okay moving forward with this and
Okay.
putting this on the agenda.
Second question, considering our limitations, if we follow just the buffer for additional lines and services for non-residents, are you okay with that? Because it's almost what we have to do. So,
Yeah, I don't think we have a choice.
okay, so we're in
Push to the maximum that we can do.
So we will come to you before we pass the final, because this is not a voting session, with numbers, accurate numbers for business. We just didn't have time to, Steve works his tail off. I mean, this guy.
These are great numbers, though.
He has worked a lot.
There's a lot of thought put into these for sure.
Okay. All right, so.
So I did have a question
Go
about
ahead.
businesses as we're,
Yes,
so I actually had some citizens reach out and ask, and maybe just to address it, so someone watching this later. Why do we charge commercial less than residential?
so that's a good question.
Thank you.
And I think that it's kind of relative to, it's only less if you consider that because our brackets are bigger,
Mhm.
that they're actually getting more water. But per square foot or per usable space, it's not always the case, because we have some very large properties that are very small users. And, if you were to, a property that would encompass 5 or 6 houses, for one, and then they're getting a business rate. There are some small ones that are over, but they're kind of the exception. It's not the rule, is what we found in general.
So I guess the question is, if you have a big space using a little bit of water, why not charge them the same amount? I don't see the difference. Sorry, I didn't understand the explanation.
Saying water's water.
Water.
Water is water and someone's using the water.
Whether it's commercial or.
Because otherwise it might behoove me to try and hook up to someone else's businesses. If I get a business license, can I get the business rate?
Not if you're a home-based business, because you qualify as a residence, not a business.
You have to turn your-
But that's, I get where you're going with this. So thoughts. I mean, this is not,
That's
just-
something to consider reviewing.
Yeah.
We probably never needed to before. We're kind of having things come to the forefront that haven't been concerning necessarily up until now. So I think that is something to review.
So I do think we need to encourage, like I said, I want to be business friendly. And a lot of times we have kept it lower. I think
For that reason.
for that reason was
And I
to
think that is the case
attract
here too.
business.
Is that the main reason?
That was my understanding. I just wanted to see if you guys agree.
I think it might have been, I don't want to say artificially low, but there was a definitive reason for making it lower. Most businesses tend to use, per square foot, like less water.
Right.
But I think that those were set during a time when a lot of things were set lower for business to attract business.
I guess what I'd like to see, in addition to the study we're doing, is I'd like to see a rate comparison with adjacent cities
For commercial.
for commercial specifically, and understand if they are still doing that or if they are just flat. I just want to make sure that we're being, again, we're trying to conserve water. This is a good way to do it. It's good to encourage everyone to be good stewards.
That's good. Just a reminder to the public who are listening in, we did not have enough data to set this in.
Understood.
business facts.
I just know we're still looking at
Yeah.
commercial data. I'd like that extra data point to understand what our
I
adjacent.
think that's a
neighbors do.
good thought. Any others?
So I guess we are not, what we've demonstrated here is just not going to get us to the full 280 potential penalty. This is just a stab with the equitability discussion still in place, that we're not trying to leverage the backs of our homeowners to make up.
Well, we're trying to not get to the 280.
Effectively,
Yeah.
we're counting on people being part of the solution and using less. If we were to have to account for all of it, yeah, we've got to make some really steep, but we haven't accounted for business yet. So maybe that takes care of it.
And the last time we did this was in 16, 15?
I was on the council.
We did a
17?
rate.
17, I think.
Okay.
We adjusted the rates. to
Yeah.
make them more equitable.
And what are we scheduling that for, as far as like how frequent are we doing this? Is it just as need arises, or is it?
Yeah, I don't think that we had kind of a regular pace at this, other than,
I just don't want to let it get so far out of hand that
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
having to make big jumps. Like,
Every
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Usually we do
Have to
adjustments
do
whenever the rate
several
changes on the water.
yeah.
which is like,
We've done that annually.
Every year.
with the
So every
budget.
year it's like a 30-cent.
Yeah.
We've just passed it on and figured that was accounted for.
This is the first
This is a
re-architecture of
major shift in the market because we have so much less water. So that was the motivator. Maybe we should set this on a pay. It's a good suggestion.
I mean,
Maybe
maybe
every
it's not
three.
every year, but I mean.
Well, I think
it's
anytime there's a
before-
rate increase, we re-examine this.
Yeah. But when it's, yeah,
And
so.
and if it's something that can stay the same, great, but it is better to not
Take a
have
look at
that
it.
10-year kick
Yeah.
in the gut.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
So it's been what, 5 this time? And
Well, we had a rate increase last year.
right,
Well,
but
we're
it's
not-
been
This is the policy, not necessarily.
policy.
a really
This is-
policy.
This is the
review.
rate structure.
Sure. Okay.
The thought through.
I just don't want to change it too often because
No,
that
no,
gets
for
a little
sure. I just-
onerous.
I
just
I
think
don't
the
feel
time-
terrible that it went 5 years because that seems like fairly normal, but
Yeah.
It's just that we have
Everything's kind of a
different
5-year.
things going, which again, if it is something that we look at regularly, we can always say that seems in line,
yeah.
and other things may not.
I think you're on this. I would like to do additional pushing of, I'd like to see how many people we can get that free kit out to.
Oh,
Education.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
think
education
that's gonna be
and getting the
crucial.
free kits. I
Yeah.
would like to send that link out wherever we can because I don't know about you, but I really like free stuff.
I really
I'm a
like-
sucker for
We've
free
heard-
stuff.
We've heard that about you, Jared.
I'm a sucker for free stuff. And so the fact that I was able to get all this stuff and hook it into the house and see a significant, I don't know, I guess I'll watch my water bill and see if my daughter's showers have changed my bill structure, how much I'm using. But these are really easy things. The best way to change habits is to not have to change them, but make the environment different such that it's easy to save.
To your question, though, I do recall that the first year after we did this, we were like super scrutinizing, did we do the right thing? But then in subsequent years, it was kind of like, hey, it still looks about the same, and we did prove it out that it worked. So that's a good point, though. This is a major shakeup, so it has to be.
It's fair though.
Okay, if there's no more amendments to this, we will come back with the business section of this and try to move it forward, but looks like what we'll go with. All right. Item C, discussion of potential rain barrel program.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, the big reason why this is on here is people keep asking about it. And I think we just need to tell people what it is. So I asked for some research from staff. I didn't even heard this report, so I don't know where it is, but yeah, let's tell people what's available and I know the state of Utah has some regulations. I couldn't tell you what they are. So who did Robert? Please come
Introduce it. Okay.
and do share
Yeah,
because
questions.
the public doesn't have the packets on this one and this is an educational purpose.
So yeah, we don't have any city ordinance that regulates barrel harvesting. We rely on the state. The state has very good, well detailed. It's under Utah Code 73.3.1.5.
And let me ask this question as you start.
Yep.
Do we even have the power to regulate beyond the state?
We can't do anything contrary. Nothing more.
So,
Nothing more.
so I think that we don't, that's why we don't have a policy in the city.
Right.
Okay,
So state code says that any person can collect rainwater off of their property for a maximum of 2 containers and not to exceed a total of 100 gallons. So you could have 250-gallon containers.
For 255 gallons, you're out.
Mostly full
Well,
55.
It's like,
that's funny.
it's so much more of a
Only if you
hassle
fill 'em up.
to even get the equipment set in place
No,
to
it says
fill
no larger than 100.
100
cannot
gallons
use
than it
55
is.
gallons.
It's just, and I get a lot of rainwater at my place and could pull a lot of it off of that metal building. And it's just the cost for the equipment alone to harvest it. It's just, the state makes it pointless
Yeah.
to do it, but you can do it, but it's,
Yeah, so you can collect more than that, but if you do, you just have to register with Division of Water Rights.
and if you
It
don't,
does
they'll come
not
over.
give you the water rights to the water. It just allows you to use it. So, but it would require registration.
And if you
Is-
don't register, they will show up.
Yeah.
I promise.
Is that total,
Well,
that's
yeah,
total
system
for a
that can collect
season,
that,
a
they'll
year?
or at
Yeah,
one
I
time.
tried to
Uh,
collect rainwater and they
does
wanted
it
to know if I had a
specify?
permit from it. In the middle
That's
of a
just a
property, they couldn't
container,
use
is that what you mean?
So if I filled 100 gallons worth of containers,
Used
used it, I
You
can.
You
collect
can
it
use
on-
it, yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Yeah.
But in our drought system, I think in the packet you indicate. the
Get a
likelihood of that
storage
getting
tank.
us-
Yeah, so I mean, I gave an example. If you had 100 gallons of water stored and you had average flow of garden hose about 6 GPM, if that's what you were using, it'd empty out in about 16 minutes. So I mean, it's not a lot. I don't see this replacing sprinklers, but it could maybe supplement.
They might
So-
start complaining about the flow and the pressure.
And then,
on
yeah,
the
the
systems.
the other thing to
It could help
consider.
gardens.
The other thing to consider is how often do we get rainstorms during summer? So last year we
16
had,
minutes seems like an awful long time for 100 gallons. I'm just saying.
yeah,
a very
it's a 6
slow-
GPM.
That's a very
You could
slow
drop a
flow.
pump in it and it'll empty faster, but
You put it up 5 feet, it'll empty in 2 minutes.
yeah.
Yeah, so it gets near the bottom, it's gonna be going slower.
So,
I use it.
cross my train.
Sorry.
All right, let's not distract Robert. We've got to get.
Sorry. Oh, so last year, we had one series of storms, August 24th, that week, that collected 2 inches. And we had another storm in May that was like a 1/2 inch. So as an example, during a drought year, we had 2 storms. You could fill your containers twice, to whatever max capacity it is and use it.
That's 200 gallons of free
So-
water.
So
You like free things.
I do.
now, I do
Except you have to buy
know
a tank.
from Utah Rivers Council, they have a website where they talk about a program where they help get rain barrel kits for a pretty low cost. It's like $83. And I think once or twice a year, you can go to a spot and, you pre-order it and go pick it up and bring it. So that's always available to public. Anyone can do that at any time. There are just a small number of cities that help subsidize the cost of it.
Now, I didn't see any cities. I saw
There was a
counties.
county, there's Summit and.
Summit, and I think Salt Lake.
Counties that subsidize it. And then there's Park City and Ogden and Eagle Mountain and.
Well, Park City was covered by Summit, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, the county means it's just unincorporated cities,
Oh,
right?
The people in the unincorporated areas of the county.
Right.
Like right past the county line.
Right. So, anyway, so there's just a few places that will subsidize it up to like $30 rain barrel. So I think that may be the question that's coming.
Some
from
people have asked
residents.
that is, should we
So-
subsidize? I mean,
I don't,
it's all your taxes, folks. I mean, we
Yeah.
can give it back to you and
It's-
take more somewhere
I think
else,
that
but
just turned it into the worst water and laundering
Yeah.
business ever,
No.
right? It's that.
I
that's
don't think we
basically-
need to subsidize it. People
No.
want to
They
do
can do
that.
it on
That's
their
great.
own
yeah.
and go through all the.
You can literally get
bureaucracy
those
of it.
water, those barrels on KSL, the food grade ones for like $10.
nope, you can't, because those would be 55 gallons and you'd exceed. your
Oh,
limit.
you're correct.
But
You
just
just draw a
take
line
5
on it.
gallons out of it.
And don't
You're
Drill a
correct.
hole out to
That's that-
50.
Yeah,
I think
And then it
this is
won't
just
go
not
fast
what government is, in my opinion.
I
This is
know.
not the
Yeah.
highest and best use of government.
I agree with
taxes
you.
dollars,
If
So
you
Saves their
register,
yard
you
from
go to
flooding.
25
Let 'em
gallons.
So
collect it.
I'm gonna suggest that what I'm hearing is, we're not gonna subsidize because it's really just taking your money somewhere else
Uh-huh.
and giving it back to you.
but
And
adding an extra
we have-
layer of regulation to do
yes,
it.
and
Yeah.
we've told people what's available. So we're still gonna get questions. What about rain barrels? Just
Go ahead
refer
and
them to the
get their own.
state.
Yeah.
That's what our program is. There's a state program and we can't beat it. So
Maybe we can add that link to
Yeah,
our
Yeah,
conserve
great
water
idea.
page.
Yeah,
I think it'd
It's
be
a good
worthwhile
Great idea.
to,
All those good
on that
links at the
page,
bottom,
Add the
for the
link.
conserve water.
I would put
Yeah.
this, say, we put the restrictions for 100 gallons of storage. And then, yeah, just allow people to do it. But yeah, I don't know why they didn't go 110, because that would really simplify it for a lot of people.
A lot of people.
okay,
Okay.
so I'm gonna move us on to the next item, which is discussion of the city's secondary water metering strategy pursuant to Utah Legislature's adoption of House Bill 242. I will say this, the staff entirely came up with this. Some of Robert's people put together this plan and just threw it out there, and I was impressed, and I'm so excited to share it with you just as fast as I learned about it, because this is a real plan here. Robert, take it away.
yeah, so we know that the cost to convert meters is gonna be somewhere almost $14 million. Well, excuse me, it's $17.5 million,
Yeah.
hire a contractor to do it. We know we can save money if we can do it with in-house staff. And not only save money, but save time and be more efficient and have less of a draw on our current staff for quality checks and blue staking and permitting and stuff like that. So the idea is we could hire 4 new staff members, water maintenance workers, and that is exclusively all they do year long. And you've got over 8,000 meters to do.
Can you
That's
do it
about-
year round?
Yeah,
Yeah, as long as the ground isn't.
I mean,
frozen.
if there's a
So,
snow
yes.
day, you can't do it on a snow
Yep.
day, but
But how often is our ground frozen? Is it frozen
Still
like 3
doing-
months out of the year?
It's only like
Not
that
often.
much of a frozen layer. That's really not hard.
Yeah,
to
so
get
last
through.
year we didn't have frozen ground.
Oh,
I mean,
Yeah,
other than
it's
maybe
like
just a
this. It's
shallow.
like you just
Okay.
hit it harder and
So-
you get right through.
So anyway, they could work year round on this and about 1,000, it'd take a little more than 1,000 meters, maybe 11 or 1,200 meters a year, which is still quite a bit.
it's a
to do.
lot.
So it's a heavy load. We know that we're going to be pretty limited on contractor availability anyway. And because there's 90,000 meters just in Davis and Weber County, so they're going to be all fighting over contractor.
And there's only a few
availability
contractors.
and
to do
contractor
this.
prices.
Yeah.
and which
So
could
how
increase.
long do you think this would take to do them all?
So
7 years.
We're required to have done.
We're
Basically,
not
by the
paying them
end of
$16 an
2020.
hour though, are we?
Well, so what I want to understand is, so we comply for the $10 million grant.
Yeah.
And if do we get the full 10 million, or is it?
We don't know, but if we do, so we've already reached out to them and talked about it, and they were so excited because a lot of people haven't jumped on board yet. So they were kind of like, if you're an early applicant, you might get the full grant this year. And we could maybe buy meters early on, which would be a higher percent refunded or covered by the grant, because you notice in the early years, you get more.
I guess what I was concerned about is, so we would buy all the meters.
If we can get them.
If we
That's
can
another
get 'em.
problem, is availability.
But I know that by year 7, you're only getting like
10%.
10%.
Okay, let me address that real quick.
Okay, yes, please.
Okay. So I had that exact same concern. What the state says is how they will administer the grant is once we make application and get approved on a contract, if we do it in the years where it's only a 30% match, they will hold that match through the remainder.
You're locked in.
You're locked in.
So if we get.
So if we
locked
get
in
there
early,
now and
yeah,
we get
we're
it
locked
now,
in.
we
Oh,
get
my.
locked in at the 30%.
So you're saying there's an opportunity for us to do
The
all
whole
of
time
this
at 30%.
for $3 million,
Basically,
Yeah,
as opposed to,
Oh.
and that would be our match money. That would count
and our
for
match
labor
can be
in
in
kind, that would
kind
count
with
for our
labor.
30% match.
oh,
That,
So
so
we wouldn't have to
what we
do any
pay in
more into
labor
it.
would be the match.
Right.
then let's do
The
this.
4 that we
Right.
hire.
So we're
Now-
actually gonna pay him more than $16 an hour though, right? Because that's,
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
good.
yeah. Now, here's
I have
another
a problem with
They're
caveat.
gonna be
$16 an hour
operating
crap.
heavy equipment.
We worked this backwards a little bit of how
Ones we
many
have now are making
meters a
that.
day per person we thought we could get done. And I actually reached out to a couple of contractors that install for developers that do the new meters. And these are time consuming. These are like 4 hours a meter to get
Yeah.
Well,
one
I've seen
for a
the
team
dig,
of
the
2
dig out
people.
where they dig it all
So,
out, the whole thing.
In
Yeah.
theory, so they actually came forward and said, do you think we could do it with 3? And I'm like, we need 4, because you need 2 teams of 2 to
Yeah,
get enough meters done so that you think that you can get it done in 7 years. That's crazy. But we did work the numbers backwards, and
So this is the total staff cost over the entire.
the entire
project.
project.
Right.
So the follow-on question, sorry, I'll let you finish your thought.
No, I was just confirming that. And then, so once this project is done, we redeploy those.
We
Staff
think in
members
7
or-
years, we're gonna need those 4 people.
Alright.
in
Yeah.
I
other
think that,
positions.
can we add that in there for their employment though? They'll be transitioned over, like that way they're
Well, they'll
not
be
just
very-
out of
they'll be
job
very
and or not worried about it.
Yeah,
If they're not
so
burned out and go away.
Exactly,
you
yeah.
know there's gonna be growth.
Because this is gonna be a tough
Yeah.
job to do day in and day out for 7 years.
And-
will have probably turnover.
We probably will have
If-
first.
Right.
It's a position, not necessarily a person.
Hey,
really
really quick on this, I know that we're charging our new builds.
Yeah.
They're paying for them up front, right? So this is
Yep.
just basically
It's the
retro.
existing-
This is-
Yeah,
This is
retrofitting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
This is your
number
house.
doesn't- This
is
number
My
doesn't
house,
change.
ours, all of our houses, I think, except,
Yeah.
didn't you
It's
just
our
move?
house.
Yeah, so not his house, I don't think.
No, yours is
Mine's-
not.
mine's- Is it? Oh, okay.
Yours is within the
Steal my
last,
house.
yours is in the
Oh.
last like 3 years.
Hmm.
4 years?
7.
7? No, never mind. You don't
Oh,
have it.
It's
I'm
your
back
house.
on the
It's
list.
back on the list.
Anyway,
So-
I was pleased with the idea that they came forward, but this is a big step. But I think it's I mean, when I look at what we did with water last year, and everybody, other agencies and surrounding cities modeled after us because it was successful. I think in a progressive idea like this, you're gonna find next year and the year after, a lot of people trying to take the same plan approach because
Well, the
this is
state
smart.
basically said that that everybody's gonna end up having to go to metered secondary at some point anyway, so
by
getting
By
2030,
2030.
yeah,
everybody has to
yeah.
be done.
So by getting a head start on it, maybe we might be done by 2030. That's pushing it
Yeah,
close.
this is actually
Another
saying
award
we'll be
is coming
close.
your way.
Yeah,
Just watch.
So
credit
you
the
will
city
see
engineer.
these,
he's my current favorite.
okay, so a couple of things. You will see these people as possible hires in the agenda for Friday
Okay,
for budget. So there'll be a group of 4, they come as a package. And if we fund this, we're funding those 4. So that, yeah,
I have a follow-on question now that I think Paul's done.
a fall-on question.
Follow
We do have a
on.
sword.
Whatever.
ouch.
Do we have 3 million in our general fund to pay for this?
No,
Okay.
So this would be secondary water, a utility. We'll talk about on Friday on how we might discuss water. but-
Okay, because that's my one concern is,
yeah, I know.
historically, I don't have 3 million laying around.
Yeah,
No, we don't.
And that's
But
3
that's over
million,
time,
assuming we're
yeah.
getting a 10 million grant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's 3 million
Package deal.
over. 7
It is
years,
all a
so-
package.
Yeah, you don't have to come up with it all at
Oh,
once.
yeah, we don't have to. come up
Okay,
with it
that's
all
fair.
at once.
And
Yeah.
can we use ARPA funds to match an ARPA grant?
Yes, that's-
I mean,
Double
these
dipping
are,
is kind of-
this is a tough one,
We'll just
and
throw
this
it
is,
together.
we're gonna have to digest this out more on
Yeah.
Friday, but I think getting this out is what the package is, so that when we talk about whether it's in or out of the budget,
Yeah.
we understand all the pieces.
So when are these meters gonna start to be used? Is it not until 2030?
No, they'll be
Well,
used
they'll start to be
immediately.
Once they're online.
Or
But-
use it like data
Installed.
Yeah,
But they're not,
But they won't be
We
charged.
do
on
not
the-
have a
for
rate
rate.
for this yet.
yeah, right.
We
I
will
guess that
have
was
to
my
get
question.
to that, I'd say.
That'll probably
in
happen
2030, we'll
before.
have to set
Yeah,
Once
it.
yeah,
everybody's
for sure.
online.
It'll be there by then.
So are any of our current employees eligible or certified high enough to apply for these positions?
Yeah, all of our
all
water
of them are
staff.
certified, but,
Where are they at?
But, yeah.
but would they want to give up what they do to do the same thing for 7 years?
Probably,
Yeah.
probably would not be interested.
Probably not.
Brody mentioned, I'll credit him again, because he said, we may have to rotate these people in
Probably,
and out
yeah.
of this,
They
so
get
that there's
burned
not burnout. I didn't think about that, but brilliance here.
Which is
I
a
mean-
good idea.
There's some military
I know.
veterans with
Yeah.
ADHD and
Give them a different
like
So
shift.
individualized
what are
personality.
what are the life of these meters? Or
Yeah, so they
That's a great question. I didn't
warranty
think about that.
for, I think it's a 20-year warranty, I recall.
and then who's responsible for
Replacing them.
changing a meter?
So,
Is it
yeah,
the
it would fall
homeowner or
on
the
us.
city?
The city would have to change it. out.
Yeah.
So we get like a 10-year break before he's got to start switching them out again.
I mean,
Well,
so years
20
ago, we
20
talked about trying to put get residents to do this themselves when it wasn't mandated by the state. People didn't
No.
take to that at all. And,
Volunteer for it.
I don't want to pay for something I don't have to.
What was the cost estimated to be per household?
1,800, yeah.
yeah,
Something like that.
it was a
Yeah.
lot less back then, but it was still, nobody was gonna pay for this, and it's really because the state is mandated. We have to do it.
Yeah, there's
But it is-
ongoing replacement.
Because if we're spreading this project over 7 years and doing about 1,000 a year, then you're gonna have those start to fail 1,000.
And we're gonna have to
at a
start
time.
replacing
Yep,
them.
that's right.
That's how the culinary meters work too.
Culinary.
Yeah.
Okay.
However, it is the
That's a-
best tool for reducing wasteful water.
Oh, yeah.
And on the
Yeah.
bright side, we'll have 4 people.
Yeah,
that will
but I'm
be
just
ready
trying
to
to-
start
no, no,
replacing
I'm just
meters.
saying,
What is?
Let them
the
wear their
ongoing-
headphones.
It's gonna be a
It's a
continual.
business
Yeah.
model.
Okay. I think I got what I need on this
Okay.
one.
All right, thank you.
Good job.
We'll,
Yeah, that's good.
be talking about how it fits in the budget on Friday.
Yep.
That's gonna be a.
All right.
17.
Now, next one, we need to talk about our Flip the Strip program. And here's the issue. We're booked out for almost 2 years now.
One full year.
One full
definitely.
year ahead, and we've got people clamoring to do this. So we have a couple options. We could hire more people and do more Flip the Strip, but that's kind of we now have to put out money to get the results.
So
What do you want to do? How do you want to
I
attack
was
this?
talking with Robert about this a little bit yesterday, and for me, I think it's a great benefit when we start putting it out to be like a wide scale thing that we can do on delivery, on demand. You're creating a competition for somebody who has a business that wants to come out and do this. I think it's a great benefit. I think it's a learning experience, an educational piece for our citizens. And we're seeing people self-select into it without waiting on our list. They're going out and doing it themselves or hiring people. I think that that's the piece what we wanted to get done was that motivation and to get people to see this actually can look good. It can be smart. It can reduce, wasteful spending or watering. But I would recommend maybe we continue for this year, still play out everybody who's, been signed up at this point because they, we've kind of said we're going to deliver on that and then potentially phase it out next year.
I have a question.
Sorry, real quick, I have a conflict of interest in discussing this because I'm actually starting a flip stripping business in the next
Oh.
few weeks, so I won't be involved in the conversation.
Okay, fair
Well,
enough.
there you go. That's the competition I'm talking about.
Flip stripping.
And that,
is what you
ma'am, is
said?
appropriate behavior
What is a flip
Okay.
stripping? That sounds
Flip
inappropriate.
strip flip.
that a lot of people are in need of. So that was actually what I was just gonna ask on that. So what does it cost us to do that for each, like for an individual house? What does it cost the city to do it?
So we don't we don't have any hard costs. It's really labor. And
She said
time.
it's 20 minutes
So
and
is that?
So, I mean, it's gonna be, there's gonna be a cost,
There's
so.
value, but there's not necessarily
But we
added
were
cost.
doing it with excess labor that we had because of some of the things that we didn't have to
When there
do
was time
last year.
between.
so what I would.
Time in between. Okay, so it's that, so we use equipment to do it. So the cost that it would normally cost to rent that type of equipment, the fuel for it, the manpower for it, the disposal of stuff, what we're doing with that. So all of that adds up to a cost.
Yeah, can we sell
So
this
could
on?
we,
Sell it?
exactly, well, I don't know, could we
Probably not worth it.
figure out something with a company that maybe the homeowners would pay half and then the city would come out with the other and work with one company to do it? So we've already, instead of hiring new people, just work with a company that can do it at
Well,
cost,
we don't have
that
to
still
hire
makes a
anybody. I
profit.
mean, what Seth was suggesting is that
Yeah,
we let it be the private sector and we get out of this business. So that's a possibility.
Jen, yours is a different idea.
Yeah.
A little bit. It's basically allow a contractor, but maybe resident pays half the cost.
Yeah.
of whatever.
That would kind of be us
Yeah.
subsidizing
So that would
private
be-
business.
yeah, I like that idea, just letting the private people do it, because that lets blue collar people make money.
Well, and Robert, you talked
Honestly.
about your staff. I mean, it's creating burnout as well.
Yeah.
And it's a
Yeah,
long
this is a
list of
service that we don't
undeliverable-
normally offer. We really just decided to try it to allow some incentive for residents who want to.
It's
have
done a
this
really
happen.
good job though.
Yeah.
So, like,
So it's a very slow going
Yeah.
because it's not our highest priority.
One other consideration we could have is that we still do it as needed, but there's a charge. So
So
you're covering the city's time or labor for.
Like, we could do it for the elderly folks, I think. I would do it for them. Like, yeah. They can't do it on their own. Like, we have able-bodied people in my house, we could do it. But like my 65-year-old, 85-year-old neighbor, maybe not 65, but
I mean, that's a
85-year-old
good,
neighbor.
that's a good plan, except for now you're in a position.
Now you
where
gotta apply.
are, well, how do you decide who it qualifies for? Does somebody else, because they're disabled, qualify? Does somebody else? How can I say to one person, you don't qualify because you're just over the threshold of healthy? I don't, you're getting into a deciding where the line is policy.
I think we should just take the approach that we have a limited number each year, say 100. Maybe it's 150. I don't know what it is.
I like your
I'll
idea.
leave that to you. And actually do like $100 and do like a lottery in the spring that say, if you want to get in on this, you have this time to sign up, and then we'll pick 150 houses. Because I want to keep encouraging this, because hearing that we just took out 2 acres,
2 acres.
2 acres of
Turf.
turf. And if I remember right, a quarter acre takes 20,000 gallons to water each time. So times that by, 2 acres, that's a lot of water that we're saving every 2 days.
Are we providing the rock?
No.
They have to do all that.
No,
We just
that's-
pull it all out
Dig up the turf.
They remove the turf.
and that's
And
it.
that's it. And so I would like to continue doing this because I think it's a value, but I think there is a cost. I don't want it to, I think we $100 for this is cheap. Maybe it's 50. I don't know what you guys want to say. If we have the personnel and we have the ability to, as a city, push good behavior, but I do think there has to be a limit. We can't have thousands each year. I think we need to put a limit on it.
Well,
That's my
they can only
proposal.
complete 120 or 100.
So,
What's the max?
I don't think we
all
have.
right, so I'm going to
personnel
draw a
at
couple
this
of
point.
conclusions from what's been said is we don't have an appetite to hire more people so that we can
No.
get more done. I think that's good. That's a settled point. The question is, do we go beyond this year? I think we settled that we will do this year because we've already made promises. And so we don't have to deal with anything going forward on that until further date. So now you're saying, what do we do after that? It sounds like we don't have to make that decision this year because we won't get to that point.
Table it
Well, except for are we telling people it's closed? So if like.
at the moment. We
Well, I
can't take
think
any more
what we're telling
applicants.
them now is that we won't have time in this year.
So, but I mean, if we're not planning on doing it next year, just hypothetically speaking, do we want to get the messaging out so they're not waiting? You've got quite a bit of demand. The message is completely different.
Yeah,
It's
it's a good
saying,
At what
question.
point do you open it up?
But
Yeah.
see,
Have
what-
we closed
could say we're
applications
booked
for it?
a full year
We have at the moment.
and
I
we're
think,
viewing
can we just
for
leave
next
them
year.
closed?
and Try back
Could
next year.
Considering if we're gonna.
Try
do
back
it
next year. We're
Yeah.
booked this year.
Like
Try
open
back
it for a certain amount of time
I
at the beginning of the
absolutely
year
think
and
that's
then
the
once
best
it
thing to
fills,
do.
it fills.
Because then
Or do
people,
something on your own if you'd like.
yeah, I think people see this as a service, and it is, but it's something that benefits all of us.
Yeah.
And I think the city has gotten a lot of great publicity for this. But yeah, maybe limit it to 50 and say, look, 50, we're going to open up signups on April 1st. And then we have 50 slots. And I think that has a.
How are people signing up?
Online.
So they'll call Public Works and then they come in, they actually have to sign a contract agreement to limit.
Miss Page would strangle someone if 50 people came in at once.
So if you limit it to a certain number, and so you have to sign up, are you guys just gonna get flooded with?
Well,
Probably.
so what you'll, yeah, I mean, there will be 50 calls, and then after that, you'll just say, sorry, it's closed for this year.
We could probably set up a web form on. the
Yeah.
website.
Or just
Yeah.
a sign up form, yeah?
Just to put your name in the hat.
Put your name in the hat, and
And
then
then a small fee, so you don't, I think that's important.
we
Like,
could
just even a
we
small
could do
one.
the drawing at the Easter egg hunt, and the next winner goes to.
Speaking of Easter egg
Put it
hunts.
Okay, so
Come on,
Okay,
that was
I
awesome.
think-
I think we have enough
It
on us
will
at least
be.
to move forward on this.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's hard not to.
We
switch
are,
off.
that is on Friday's
That is-
agenda too, because I wasn't sure where we
Right.
would get on this.
Wait, what's
Okay.
what?
but I
I
think we've
put this
got,
on Friday's agenda too, because I wasn't sure how far we would get on this.
but I think we've got this one
Budget-wise.
pretty
So,
wrapped
yeah.
up for this year. All right, so discussion regarding amendments to the Syracuse City recruitment and retention policy. So I'm going to preface this and explain that we knew we had to do this. We talked about changing this policy. So I started by asking the department heads to come up with where they thought this would be. I think there was some good debate among different departments to figure out what would work for everyone. And this is a starting point. I think it's a complete policy, so we could move forward if it was acceptable. But again, I just asked the department heads to come forward and say what they thought might fit and solve the challenges that we had. There were some very interesting things that came out of this. Like, for example, when we looked at the 60th percentile and then we looked at the average of top three, we were talking about cents difference in each position, not much at all. But when you think about the perception difference of I'm paid the average of top three versus what does that 60th percentile mean? Because we were starting to get some pushback throughout the city of I don't understand what 60th means, or I'm only 60% of a person, somebody said. I'm like, that was ridiculous. But anyway, it was harder to understand. We tried to go for something that would be simpler to understand, because a good successful policy is one that people can easily figure out where they're expected to be.
I have a problem with the whole comparing to the states or to the cities around us. I did a lot of looking into the income guidelines for the state of Utah in general. And I'll use some of our maintenance workers as an example. We have 4 that are currently making right around the $16 mark. And for them to have a spouse and 2 children, that means their spouse needs to be making $28 an hour just to meet their basic needs. So instead of looking at the cities around us, we need to look at what we're offering our full-time career employees, and if it's morally even a living wage amount, because a couple of these are not.
I thought I was told $15 an hour is a living wage.
Not in Utah, not right now.
I'm just saying what I heard.
And I think it's honestly disgusting of a city to expect career employees to work for that kind of pay.
Well, now you have to ask yourself, are all of the positions in the city career positions?
Well, the 4 that I'm speaking of are they not?
Okay,
They're the ones that the 2 gentlemen that drive our snowplows, Jory and Brad, they are with us career positions. They're both making right around $16 an hour. And then there's Mr. Brad, the other 2.
So these are entry level, maintenance worker level 1s.
1 and 2 is what they are, right, Steve? 1 and 2 is what we looked at. But we just saw one of your manager reports about all the certificates one of these employees has. is their pay even comparable to all that they have compared to what the other sector of employment looks like? Like, that's not city employee.
The one you saw tonight that we introduced is level one.
What are, okay, so if we're planning to keep him for 20 years and so they're starting a career with us and basically in that age of their life, when you're starting a career, you're starting a family and things like that. Is that even a living wage for them?
So from a policy perspective, what I'm hearing is, so right now, under not the draft even, but under our current policy, we compare to what
To cities.
what the defined market is, which is cities.
Yeah,
Are you proposing
that we look at a
Look at
state
look at a
level.
different market?
Yeah, that, I think we need to compare at the state level of cost of living, what it costs to live in the state, because employees that work for a city should be able to make enough money to live in that city. They're not.
Well, I mean, there is it's a tough part of the policy here is you have to ask yourself, what is the going rate for this job? And a lot of these people can work into better jobs and can get promoted into better positions. Maybe they accepted this because for one reason or another that we don't understand, but we're setting our pay level based on what people are paying this job
In other
similar-
cities.
That's right.
But that's where
But
the
that's
job sector
where the,
exists.
yeah, that's
that's
the comparable position. It's hard to say.
So we are adding to the aspect of allowing other cities to pay their employees lower because we're comparing off their low wages also.
Let me
One-
add something real
one-
quick, if you don't mind. We did add in districts, which we never had done that before.
That's right.
So in looking at
Like
the
sewer
districts,
districts.
that's actually going to.
And that's why there's a price tag attached to
Right.
this policy, the 760K. That's gonna.
Another thing that came out of the draft, and this is, you can see it's version 1.7, there were 7 iterations internally that we came up. What came out of this draft was for those entry level positions, they would be set equal to the top paying city in the market.
For the level one position.
And it took, how long did it say before they?
Well, there's now, I mean, there's the discussion on advancement.
Yeah,
and-
that's,
Right,
yeah.
that's the whole policy.
What I was
is-
looking
is
at
How
just
do
now.
you move through the system? When should you get the top rate in your career?
I think this is very fair.
I think
As it's outlined.
yeah. I think it's reasonable to say there is a starting wage for everything, for every job, including, I mean, any job anywhere has a starting wage. And then the point is that they can either raise rapidly or jump into another position that makes better sense to them.
It looks beautiful in black and white. I will not lie. It looks beautiful in black and white, but when you look at someone's paycheck, it doesn't look as pretty.
But see, when I started as an engineer, I couldn't afford a home in Syracuse. I had to get promoted. I had to keep working.
Did you work in Syracuse?
No, I didn't, but I couldn't afford a home in Syracuse. So what I'm saying is, I don't expect every entry level person to be able to afford a home in any specific city. I think that is a flawed logic.
I would expect them to be able to make enough money to live though, even if it's, I think this is the problem that wages across the board are having, that everything's going up and people can't afford to live. But business owners and employers want to validate why they're not raising pay to a living wage. And that's what we're doing right now. We're validating why we're not raising their pay to a living
So
wage.
what are you defining as a living wage?
Well, the state of Utah considers a living wage that a family of 4 needs to make $54,000 a year just for their basic needs.
Okay, but we're not assuming that every entry level position is a family of
I
4.
was talking about a specific 4
know,
that I used
but
as an example.
What I'm saying is that we have to assume that when you start in your career, you probably don't have a full family yet. Maybe you have a spouse, maybe you don't.
And I understand
Maybe
that.
And you
have
find out a
kid.
homeowner.
And okay,
Yeah.
that was an example of a family of 4. You want me to pull up the website and start
No, I
breaking it
don't.
down for you guys? Because then we can make this till midnight if you'd like. I'm happy to.
What I want to do is be fair. And I think it's fair to say, if you're working in a specific position, that position has a value
Yeah,
and that value is assigned by the market. I am not here to artificially inflate a market.
Yeah, if we peg ourselves to a relevant market, this is the only relevant market we can actually attach ourselves to, because that is where snowplow drivers are being hired or any of your municipal based positions. I think that's the best and most efficient tie we can make. I don't know that we can find something that a market would justify adjusting it outside and artificially inflating it, unfortunately.
And I understand what you're saying about
Yeah.
they need to make a living wage, and we've all felt a real crush, especially lately. But then you have to recognize too, that if we inflate this job, then we get that money from our taxpayers, which is.
Now
it's
their
the
living
same
wage goes
people
No,
up.
they
that-
don't have
That have to
enough to
pay
make
for
them a
it.
living
So.
wage.
I mean,
So who
it-
gets to
it
suffer
robs
along the
you.
way then, right?
Well, it
Which
robs
man in the
you
lower
to
end of the
pay
totem pole gets to suffer for society is what this is.
I
That's
don't think this is-
fantastic.
I don't think this
I
is.
don't think
suffering
so.
You can put whatever label you want
society.
on it.
And that's the one I put on it.
Okay, that's
In a
fair.
capitalistic society, there is that's how it goes. It just is.
Because ultimately, if we're saying, hey, this particular position, we have to compete for this labor, right, with surrounding cities. And if that is not a wage that people are willing to work for, then they will say, well, I'm going to change careers, or I'm gonna go find another job. And then the market will raise the rate for that through those actions of the
That's what
labor
we're
that we're
doing
trying
right
to
now.
just did that.
purchase.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're
so
doing that.
so
Yeah.
it
Some
will
departments we had to
adjust.
raise in order to get a
Yeah,
person
it
in
will
that job.
adjust and correct.
We still don't have all our employees at 60%, I don't think, correct? So why are
We
we?
don't.
Yeah,
But this
So-
policy,
yeah, but we bent that policy
Differentiates.
too. So in about 21 different ways, right?
this is
Well-
doing away with that. This is rewriting.
I actually think this is a good path forward. I think it's reasonable. We're gonna have to figure out the budgeting behind this. So to be clear, this is 760 above what we already talked about.
Yes, and we've,
So for a
we've got
total
that
of
number.
approximately 2 million.
Just so you know, we've got that number figured into the budget, a couple of different combinations. So we're gonna talk about that on Friday. If we adopt this policy, where does it go? If we adopt a smaller version of this policy, or we do it in 2 phases, maybe, these are all options that we've kind of tried to lay out for discussion.
Yeah, we're
So
gonna
where-
have to talk about this.
Where
'cause-
does this, is it outside of this policy that addresses mid-year hires and how pay increases
I think
reflect?
it's in the.
I didn't see it in this.
So
I don't
when
think
you
we
say a
wrote it in.
mid-year hire.
Well, I mean, just
you mean
somebody
an
who-
additional position?
Well, no, I'm just saying like, so somebody gets hired in September, do you have to be there the full year to get qualified?
I thought
for
that we had a
merit
prorated
increases?
for that.
I know what we do. I just didn't see it reflected in here.
Steve's
Where is
nodding
that?
in the background.
Yeah.
Is that what?
I think there's 2 different questions. What I thought you were saying was when we hire someone in the middle of the year, what level can we hire them at?
That's one.
That's the
Yeah.
personnel policy.
Okay, that's
The one you're
good.
talking about with proration based on how many months they've been here, I believe is an improvement.
I didn't see it in
For
here,
the
maybe I just
merit,
missed it.
it's
It's
not
part
in
of the
there.
merit increase, and it's a prorated merit increase.
We
I
can.
know what we
Under
do.
the
I just
career
put it in there,
progression.
though. Okay, I just didn't see. it. If
And
we can
maybe
add
it's
that
not
in.
written well enough. That's a good point.
And then in the very beginning, I was just very nitpicky. I'm thinking, just to Jennifer's point, I think it would be good to add, because let's see, under section B, it says general policy of Syracuse cities that compensate employees that is competitive with the market. I'd like it to say competitive with the regional or comparable. I think it says comparable in the next section, comparison market.
Okay,
Just to
so
add
you're in,
extra.
you're in 1B?
So they know what they're comparing with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with
Employee
that.
Sorry,
compensation policy.
2B,
2B?
2B, page 20,
2B.
or maybe it's page 19.
So
Yeah,
you want to say what?
I just wanted to reflect what it says under
Comparison
C1,
market.
comparison market. Because it says
Instead
just
of just relative.
competitive with the market. I think that's where we're getting, I mean,
Let's get more specific.
just tie it right back to the
Fair
language that's
enough.
below it. I know it's very small, but I think that
No, fair enough. What do you think in general of the idea of setting our wage as like average of top 3 versus
I like that.
percentile?
I mean, yeah. I think that makes-
I mean, truly, the percentage was not that much higher, but clearly the optics are much
There's some
better.
semantics there. I
Yeah.
want to make sure it's not giving the wrong story.
Right. It
And
gives
I
us,
do think you get into weeds with 60%. It's all based on which cities are we caring the most about, and there is a message to the employees as well, so I think.
now, one thing that really changed you just brought up, and that is we did narrow down the cities. And we narrowed it down to cities that are either
Regionally
right
applicable.
touch us or, because we had 22 cities in the past and and while some of them we were using to get specific benchmarks. In this case, we wouldn't need that many
So
benchmarks.
did we, I know that was the major discussion, was that we were just benchmarking to irrelevant cities in the
Yeah.
past. Did the department heads all give that feedback of what would be the relevant comparison points? Because I know, like with fire, Aaron, we were talking about comparing to a place that was like a volunteer fire department at one point. And
Well, what
Is
we
that
did,
all-
We weren't comparing down to like Salt Lake and stuff like that,
Right.
where we pull a lot of our firefighters. They go way down south.
well, here it says it has to be within Davis
In-
or Weaver
In this draft of the policy, it gives that department director the ability
to provide some.
to add in,
Add that in.
with the approval of the council.
So does it
to say
mean
this
that-
is, so any department director could come in and say, we feel that this is more comparable than the others or more of a comparable
And then do
choice.
the cities that
That's
were already
good.
selected in the districts already reflect everything that would currently meet those needs?
So
within
first of
these
all, we
counties?
selected the corridor, obviously, because we're losing people to those cities
Mhm.
because they're right here.
Mhm.
But one thing that we wanted to clarify is some positions we have that all those cities don't have.
Yeah.
So we left it up to each department head can bring forward and say, look, I didn't really have enough comparisons, but here's what I'm bringing forward that really is more like what we do. And so if the council in that review says, yeah, we agree, that makes sense, then that would be one that could be used in this. We wanted to start with a core because where everybody is the same, then these are the most likely for us to lose or gain employees from.
Yeah.
It's hard to say we only compared to 3 and one of them was Saratoga
Yeah, no, I
Springs.
just wanted to close that loop where we were kind of.
What was the motivation behind hiring for entry level at the highest?
Yeah,
That carries some risk
Just to
of
compete.
driving up.
you're right.
I understand the competition, but at the same time, you do pay, the taxpayers will pay for always being the top entry level
Yeah.
position.
So I will
And
say that.
it kind of puts them higher in the bracket, which means there's not a lot of growth.
So the reason that came forward was the thing that we're seeing with hiring some of these entry level positions now. Like it came forward from fire, where fire said, it can't find enough people to fill these positions because our starting wage is not high enough.
So this is because of the labor market we're in.
It is really the
primarily.
labor market. But it is an option for you as a council to say, maybe we do everybody, including first line at the average of the top 3. But we'll forever have the positions where what we learned from trying to hire is that the average of the top 3 isn't even enough. And then we have to react to that.
Yeah, there's an also going back to the first part of the policy, which outlines the entire purpose is to have quality service to the residents.
Mhm.
You have good people, and that's how you provide quality service. And if you can have good people in your front line, where the rubber meets the road, then you can better ensure quality service, which is our mission.
I agree with that, except if your adjacent city makes that same policy,
Yeah,
you just start a bidding war.
you're right. we
And you
have
will,
that
and
problem.
you'll lose.
Which is
Everybody
why-
will lose.
Which is why when we were reviewing this for presentation, I brought up the point to Brody. I said, it's almost a problem if you say I'm going to be the top paying at every position or at certain positions, because then you do attract the people who are here just for the money. We want to believe that there's something beyond just being the best paying. So like if I'm 1 or 2 in the market, which being average of the top 3, I'm going to be at least 2 or 2.5 at the worst. So the point would be that we got something else going on here. So the point would be that if you're already towards the top, but you can be a culture that people want to be a part of or a better city to work in, then those people are more likely to stay. If you're really got the people who are only here because you're the top paying, as soon as you're not, they're gone.
Right. So I would actually argue that for entry level, we have the ability to go to the top because we want to get good people. But I think the policy should state average of maybe we change it to the average of the top 2, but to state an average of to always be the top, that might create issues.
I don't know. I think that'll give you a whole lot of big pull to pick from.
Well, so you average, so you can say average of the top 2 with the potential to, but always being the top will create issues.
So did we talk about, and I think some of it is the compression concern, right? You
Mhm.
immediately create compression for the next level with the policy being the average of the next three for the next year. Did that work out to mean we wouldn't create compression issues? or
Yeah,
we'd be
there's
right
a
back in it?
caveat in there that it'll at least be 10%.
Yeah.
And that
higher.
covers that.
That,
Yeah,
So there's no
that was actually good.
keeps the compression from ever
Oh, that's
happening.
right.
Yeah,
recall
that was a good change.
That was a good one.
But I do think you should say the potential to be the top, but the policy is average of the top two. It would be my recommendation, just so you don't have the issue.
So when you said we looked at the numbers, it sounded like within the 60th percentile, even the top three average was like negligible.
It wasn't that much different.
Do we know if, I mean, that would make any difference if we went?
Well, I mean, it depends per position, but like some
I
of
mean,
the
entry
higher
level, it
paying
seems-
positions, the difference was maybe 50 cents. Some of the lower paying positions, it even was like a dime or a nickel,
Mm-hmm.
and because the differences were smaller. So, I mean, it obviously the higher the pay, the percentage becomes bigger, and so those chunks become bigger. If you were to take all the department heads and say average of top three versus 60th percentile, it is significant, but
My issue that Layton has a bigger budget than I do, and they
it's
can.
true.
So if they put a policy that says, we want to be the top, we'll lose to them every time.
That's right.
And then our policy is unachievable.
So.
And then here we are twisting it 21 different ways like we already did.
But you're saying give us the option to do that, but the average in case we can't attain that.
You want to say it, set a minimum,
Yeah.
a standard.
Yeah, so the standard is, we'll go in with this, but I think we give you guys the ability to go to the top, to be the top paying right out of the gate, if it's someone that you're like, wow, this guy's great.
But don't we
Do
have
it.
that reserved already as a?
Well, they have to come to us most of the
Yeah.
time.
Currently, we can, so what we're talking about right now is the wage scales.
Mhm.
So our wage
Yeah.
scale would be would be equal to the highest. We can hire up to the midpoint of that scale without coming to the council currently. If we have someone who's just awesome, or they have
Have
a lot of-
exceptional experience,
Yeah.
maybe it's not direct.
and we go above the midpoint, then we come to the council for approval.
I just don't know that I can afford to always be the top.
I think you're making a good point, and because you will drive up the wage scale, because, and I said that same thing. I said, what happens as soon as Clearfield wants to say, we also want to be the top?
Property tax percentage also, so that doesn't,
Yeah, so that gets reflected in.
it doesn't
You make that-
reflect, well, of course,
you
we
make
don't have that what Layton has. Layton also has a higher property tax percentage than we do
They also
also.
have an enormous
Amount of
commercial-
sales
They're more
tax,
than
their
triple
sales
our,
revenue, yeah.
our business and
So
double
they
our
have much more to
population.
Yeah.
and Yeah,
And
we-
they're
They have a lot more
geographic
staff, too.
The area that they cover, they're a bigger city.
yeah,
But to do this, we then have to increase the property taxes to accomplish this.
we
policy, at
would.
least
So
760.
that's why we have to decide how much is worth increasing property tax. And that's where we will talk on Friday is, what does that mean to the property tax and how much of this can we afford?
We're
we
getting
actually pay our employees.
150% right now based on everything I've.
Yeah, so.
We have
I'm
some
sure
tough
the employees
decisions.
don't
This is
mind.
why this was not an easy task tonight. It's because, this is tough.
So I think to your point, I don't totally get what you're saying. I think I want to think about it a little bit more and kind of.
We're not making
But-
decisions
But I
tonight,
think
but
that this is done really well.
This
I
was
think
meant
this
to be a
is-
first read, we want you to dig into this. Okay, I'm gonna move us on because I think we've gotten about as far as we're gonna get tonight. Let me at this point say thank you. We, in the last hour, took on some very deep topics that have a huge impact on our citizens and their tax responsibility as well. So thank you for taking it serious. Friday, we're going to go really deep into this. It's going to be a big, long day, sorry, but that's,
we need lots of caffeine.
yeah, it's been really planned out with, anyway.
Get some water. Okay,
So I'm gonna, well,
Dressed
Preston's,
up for it.
I came all dressed up for you guys.
Love it.
all right, I'm gonna go for a 3-minute break.
Well, that's good because we'll have time to load up.
Yeah,
I don't know about that.
Okay.
sorry.
You were like,
I was like.
3-minute break
Like,
if
how
needed.
How much time
How much
I've
does
got.
the rainwater leak
per minute. I'm about to exceed 6 gallons per minute.
I
I can't believe they put, like, who thought
They can also
100
go on
gallons
our
was a good idea?
If you log into the
Instead of
meeting
110.
on
I mean, it just
It should have been.
It
all
really
it does
is
is
funny.
then that's all.
That's like when
then-
they say get
We
any
can-
purchase under
Yeah.
$30 and
So if
every
if you want to
single thing they
pull up the
list is
agenda and then log in.
$29.99. So anyway, and then.
This laptop is what I'm worried about.
You could do that, or you can drill a hole at the 5 gallon mark.
Oh, very well. It's water, not sand.
I have it on this.
Chad, I'm glad you're here tonight, buddy. I appreciate what you do. I don't tell you that.
Fleming, thank you.
No, I really mean it.
Hey, Chad, I also think
That's
you're
why
the
it's.
best.
Did Ashley tell you I see her basically everywhere?
Yeah,
I don't even know what's going on. Like, one of us is stalking each other.
She told me I might have had to run your guys' razor.
I know.
Side by
I was-
side.
I was like.
Wait, you have a razor?
No, my brother doesn't have a four-wheeler,
There's no one.
but we left the key, we headed down to St. George and ran into his wife
So funny.
in Carl Jr. and Santa Quinn. And,
My kids were sad, soccer practice was canceled. But I
Even
understand.
30-degree weather and soupy.
But isn't it like the
Oh.
entire point of soccer to play in weather like this?
not,
When
not
it's
last night.
practices, no. and
The
not
problem
practices.
is it destroys the field.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, and right now we're trying to coddle our fields.
Hello.
Oh,
Don't do that.
it destroys character as well.
Don't do that.
They should check for a spider.
Okay, we only gave you an extra month and a half.
I know.
I've learned that not only do I hate technology, but technology also hates me. It's fine. It's fine. It'll be fine.
I can't believe we got through this much
Turn it
this fast,
away.
actually.
I've already eaten most of these.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Are you ready?
Yes, we are ready.
All right, guys. So I want you to notice all the lovely pictures that we put in here. Oh, no. Has to have to do this,
That's a beautiful picture.
right? So
Now,
what
can
is
we get
that?
these on the website?
Very Syracuse.
Can you get these on the website?
Yeah, you mean the ones with snow? I'm gonna move along. I know that. Okay, so look at this beautifully while I read our mission
I was gonna say,
statement.
when I was looking up the red thing, there was snow on the
On a
parks.
Chloe- someone
That's
put,
so
I know,
funny.
on
Yeah.
Chloe's, yeah. We're sorry, we'll get that.
So I look today though.
It's
Yeah.
funny though.
So we're committed to providing citizens with a wide variety of recreational opportunities supported by our parks, our personnel and facilities. And our goal is to deliver superior programs and services that meet the needs of the community in a cost-effective manner. Okay, what we're going to discuss today is our vision statements that that the council has given us, and then talk about our future considerations. Our first vision statement is Syracuse City provides park and open space for active and passive recreation with equipment and space for a variety of activities, and that the community center is also equipped for multiple purposes to host a variety of activities. So with this mission statement, not the mission statement, our vision statement here, we created a master plan. As you saw, it was done in July 2019 to very much condense it, Jordan.
Thank you.
And for council member Carver and for Watson, we as a group came up with that we wanted 5.6 acres of parkland per 1,000 for our population in this. Right now, we would need 180 acres developed with our 32,000. So our actual right now is, you can see, is 146.61. And that's, but we need almost 30 acres developed. The good news is we have the property to develop. We don't have to purchase property. It's just, we have to develop it. So we have 92 acres undeveloped, and that right now would be our regional park. We do have Legacy, which we're questionable on what we're doing with that. And we have some land at Jensen Park. And which one? The fields, which is right next to the
Regional.
Yep, and that's what gets us up to that 92 acres, which is good. And you'll, as we go.
How many acres is in fields?
A little 24, 22, I think, yeah, something.
We want all residents to be able, if possible, to walk within a 1 mile or less to a park. And with all of these connections happening, it's actually happening. So it's good that way. And then our overall mix is supposed to be 70 and 30. Right now, we're only at 60, 40. And then obviously Jensen Park, where we have land, fields and Legacy are all passive. So to really get that active space up, we would need to develop the regional park, the regional portion of it. Okay, any questions there? You can wait and get questions at the end if you'd like. Okay, so our community center uses, this is a big deal. This is a list of all the things that we do in the community center, and I'm sure that we forgot them. But one of the biggest things is we hold all the rehearsal space for Arts Council, along with all of our recreational programs, our Syracuse activities. We've done emergency preparedness and boutiques. We host the Art Guild and the Quilt Guild and the Syracuse workshops every year. So we're equipped to handle a lot of things in the community center. Our vision statement number 2 is there's a wide variety of programs provided by our Parks and Recreation Department. So we have youth programs, a few adult programs, and then our special events. Am I missing one? No, I was thinking we had 4, but and then our special event programs. Here's our program offerings. You can see our major ones, which we'll learn here coming up. It's our category 1, all of our big sports, our major sports. Our contracted offerings are those that actually we contract out and we bring in money because it's a 70-30 split. So there's very little that we have to do there. And that's where we want to grow and get more, because it's really just a revenue source for us. But with the pandemic, we've lost a lot of that. We're trying to build that back up. Our special events that we've had, you guys know the main special events. During the pandemic, we had to modify it. But we continued to do it. We had Heritage Days, we did it online. And we did the pumpkin walk. We had to follow all the rules, but we still were able to do it and just did switch parks. And then the Easter egg hunt, we did a modified Easter bunny where you just drove through and waved at the bunny and got some candy. This year, we're going to have our Easter egg hunt back after 2 years, and we've got 32,000 eggs. So that's been
12
You've been
seconds.
tapped
And
them
they'll be,
all.
yeah.
they're all packed. And actually,
That's a
we
lot of
didn't stock
eggs.
one. We all volunteers did it.
Oh my
So
gosh,
32,000 eggs, and
awesome.
that's something the community always helps out with us every year. We will gonna have to go and toss those, so if anybody wants to come and help us at 8 o'clock on Saturday, feel free. But that's.
Isn't that someone's
big event.
job? Didn't somebody sign up from the council to help with that?
Don't do it, Paul.
Isn't that-
Paul got recruited.
Dude,
Paul got recruited.
I remember those.
I lost a kid for like 5 minutes in that mad dash.
What am I
Well, Paul,
supposed-
this is the easiest one, because it's all done now.
Somebody's gonna have to tell me what I'm supposed to do.
Nothing.
You show up as a bunny, bro.
I just-
I got an outfit. You can
I'll see if I
borrow.
can track down a bunny
It's a
costume.
tutu.
We actually have a bunny, so.
Oh, never mind.
We have a
Wait,
bunny.
Sally, we could have 2 bunnies in Jeff's outfit. I mean, this could be
Yeah.
interesting.
It's when you have
It's a
more
whole
than
lot
one
of fun, let
bunny.
me tell you. Adult humor is funny.
Oh, dear.
That was this Saturday at 10 a.m. If you are gonna come, be there by 9:50, because it is over at 10:01. Yeah, it really is, and it's our favorite event.
With
because
30.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
that.
32,000 eggs, honestly.
Oh
Have you
my
been here
gosh,
before?
I have, but it's been a long time.
Oh,
since
they're like-
it's
Yeah,
so
it's-
crazy.
it's-
You got cheaters leaning in front of the line.
You got you got parents diving and
Kids collecting
pulling all of them
eggs.
like this so
Yeah.
that little kids can get them. Yeah, it's crazy. But
You've got the big
Brings
kids
out
moving
the
this.
worst.
Luckily, it's more subdivided, but
yeah,
still.
we subdivide it. We put it in 4 different categories so the little kids don't get
Oh,
ran
that's
over by
good.
the.
It's survival of the fittest.
You
in
should
there.
add
Do you
chicken.
still see the gold eggs?
We do that. We have all, we stuff them, with like bigger prizes so they can come and get big candy bars
Put
and
some geese
those
in
kind
there.
of things. We also provide a area for special needs. So
Oh,
we're one of the
That's
only
great.
ones that do that.
Really? I've
Yeah.
never seen anyone do that. That's
Yeah, we
fantastic.
do an area for special needs, so that's great. And then on top of that, we have, our winter activities. We haven't been able to really get going on that, but we have some ideas for this
Okay,
coming up.
you know what? We need to add to the Easter egg, a penalty box.
Yeah. It's
For
over too
adults.
fast.
For adults.
It's over too fast.
For adults. Any adult cut.
Whistle blows and it's over.
The museum, if you guys noticed, they're under our division, but they have done great things and put some really good, special events together. And then we have outside events that are nice for us because we don't have to put them together, but it brings people into the city, and by triathlons, the Lanterns Festival, and then weddings. And those are constituted as special events because we have to get all of the insurance and everything for it. So, and then Miss Syracuse pageant and the Arts Council concert and productions we help with.
We're
so.
expecting you to add rodeos. To
Yeah,
the
I was
outside
gonna, I
event.
just,
Well-
I'm like, I don't see rodeos up
Dude,
there.
did you see my notes that I was just like land for new arena? Like,
You'll just need $1
92
billion
acres.
added to the budget to do it right.
I'm gonna need about 5 mil.
That is active. And now
Let's do
we
this.
have that. So the next slide is stuff that we wanted to, look at some of the things, and we will add equestrian on here.
Yeah,
But this year coming up in the budget,
Adult
we want to do adult dodgeball.
that's awesome.
Yeah. And then our
Sounds
youth
terrifying.
pickleball. It should be so much fun, right?
We have actually the equestrian, they have one of those drill teams, the adults. I didn't know that till this last week when they were meeting over there, and I think
At
it's
the equestrian
fantastic.
park?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
on like Wednesday nights, it's like adult drill team or something. I'm like, why didn't I know about this?
So
Posse.
Posse is what it
Posse is what it
Yeah.
is. How did that slip my
We
mind?
Jackie's
have,
on it.
we rent it to the youth on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then the posse's on Wednesdays.
I'm gonna have to come over. It's like
Yeah.
a block away.
So these are activities that we want to start offering in, and these are not like high level staffing. This is actually what we can get some revenue from, and especially when you get down there to like competitive leagues, because we don't have to buy any uniforms. We have minimal staff, and you can actually charge, like, you don't have to really be cost effective for that. You can charge with the actual program and then make money off of that. And then our winter event, we are already working with the Arts Council to put a sing along together, where we would bring in the Santa and the Grinch and a big sing along. So that's what we want to do with that.
By the way,
And Elsa.
And
we are
Elsa,
doing,
Let
for
her
for
go.
Heritage Days this year, we're doing a nighttime, this. I'm
Glow,
looking at
yes.
you like this is news to you, but it's news there. We're gonna do a glow. That's gonna be on you now.
Wait, I gotta know what
What is
glow
it?
is. Well,
No,
I-
no,
It's
no,
a-
we're not
it's
talking
a
about
glow
that. This is a
run.
So
secret.
Friday night,
A
we'll down in
moonlight, a
Jensen,
moonlight 5K.
we'll do like a
but the
glow in
youth
the
are gonna
dark
be in
where
charge
we'll
of it,
have
So you and I.
Okay, that I'll do.
sticks
I'll do
and
that one.
Headlamps,
Okay.
and it'll be a night run.
I'll
Can
do
you
that
just put
one.
glow sticks so you look like a
like
stick
you
figure?
can do whatever
You
you
can
want.
literally shake glow sticks up and break them and put them on you, and your whole body will glow.
That's
The army
idea.
taught me that.
That's the idea for us to do. So
I think
that,
that's a bad idea if you wanna.
I'm
not get
still
shot.
living. I'm still alive.
In the
It's
army.
fine.
you wanna not get shot.
Okay, let's focus back on Preston.
our rec manager would really like us to do like a dog run, so we'll see.
That would be great.
A dog run?
A run with dogs.
With dogs.
Okay, so.
In theory, it would be great.
Yeah. The vision statement 3 is the programs offered by the Parks and Recreation Department are financially self-sustaining. And this is one of my favorite photos that Chad actually found, because it kind of shows what we really want to do is we want to make money to cover our costs, but we also want to think about being affordable, our mental health, being out there with the kids' social. So it's a really, a fine line that we have to be careful and walk through. So as we go through and talk about the financial self-sustaining sustainability, think about those things. So we're going to talk about our financial analysis. We broke this down into 2 categories. Our first category is our big programs. They're the ones that cost a lot, or use a lot of staffing. Our category 2 is like our contract. And then we'll show you our reservation and rental revenue, and then our participation trends. What you're seeing here is when we do this deep dive, we really go in and figure out the cost, analyze all the costs. And as you guys know, we've just raised all of our prices. Wages for our youth. Everybody is raising prices for everything, every equipment, everything. And so we really dove deep, and every program we've done one of these. And if you see, Chad actually put this, he's like amazing when it comes to math. He is. He's amazing.
Seems like we got one of those in every department. It's fantastic.
Thank heavens.
Yeah.
But he's amazing with math and put this together, and down to the paper that we use in a program is on this. And so you'll see down at the bottom, the total cost per player. And this is for our junior jazz category 1. And then if we wanted to add a 10%, which would be that cost to help pay for our administration and staffing. Because right now we cover all of the costs of our programs in total between all of our programs. But junior jazz, it's been a little drain on us. So we go through that, and you will see, we're going to be doing that here in the next month or so, where you will see every single program, because we're going to be raising fees, and that has to come through you guys, and you'll be able to see how this is all worked. But we really do, it takes a lot of time to get it all done, but that's just an example of one of them. Okay, so this is our financial analysis. As you guys can see at the end, the total, that's where we're covering all of our costs, everything and all of our programs, where our staffing and equipment, everything is covered, and we're actually showing that we're making money. However, some of the programs have been losing money because of equipment costs that went up, but also like this, contract officials cost a lot. And as your programs get bigger, your staffing gets bigger, and that's where our big costs are with staffing. So that's where you're going to see a lot of changes, because by next year, all of those will be, and you'll actually see more money in our revenue.
So we're reading this right, saying soccer.
Soccer is our big one. Yep, it actually helps us cover everything.
I think every kid should play.
Yeah, and then, yeah. Our next one is, this is for our category 2, which is just our, why can't I think of the word? Our contract employees. So anything we do here, we're making money off of.
What is Pump It Up?
It's an aerobics class. Go and pump it up. You're doing some aerobics while you're.
Okay,
It'll be part of the next council meeting.
Notice I look straight at Cassie when you're doing at lunch.
The next one is our participation numbers in our category 1. So as you can see, soccer is crazy. We went up 200 kids just in spring. So we're almost at 2,000 participants for
And
soccer.
you're gonna get to the deficiencies.
It's crazy.
Like the inability to fulfill.
Well, yeah,
I still see it all the time. People are like, is there a wait list, or what do I do?
Well, we do a really good job of getting almost everybody we can off the wait list. But there are times when you're a week into it and there's just so much into it. I think people think it's like this, but it takes a lot of time to program and get that going. But the fall is where we had the problem with space, because we are running flag football, tackle football, and soccer. And so last year we had to adjust our flag football fields that they all were the same size so that we could, and went on them every single day, which is not great for our fields, so that we could accommodate. And we are in every single park that we can possibly play in the fall. Yeah, spring, we're at 3 fields right now. We're at 3 different parks.
3 sites.
Three sites, yeah, three sites. But when you only have one program, it's a little bit easier. The thing is we've always got everybody also wanting to use our fields for competitive leagues. So lacrosse is at Linda Vista. And people will get angry, but we have to rest our fields because we are on them Monday through Wednesday. I mean, Monday through
I get calls
Thursday.
from AYSO every year.
Yeah. Yeah, but we have to rest our fields. So, you know, it's the wear and
And
tear.
there's a dozen new sports that somebody's dad is sure that we have to start that league year. I've heard from 3 or 4 this spring, and we just, we can't do everything.
Yeah.
We're just out of programmable space.
Yeah, we're out of
Especially in the
program.
fall.
And we're not meeting our 70%
have
split
a-
anyway. So
No,
And we're at the
Yeah,
point
we
where
don't-
we're
we need a
really
football field
looking
for football.
at having to cap, because we don't even have the staff to be able to cover every site that we need to be at. And so we're looking at a point where we're gonna have to start looking to cap, especially your soccer programs. Our spring soccer is our biggest program we have.
And it's only gonna get bigger.
A regional park, and
As
then
we
like
develop some
girls-
acres.
The more and more kids we get in the city, it's only gonna get bigger.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it is.
realistically.
well, and then there's adult programs too. I mean, there
That we're
are
missing
people
out
who
on.
really want, and
I
some
love
of those
people
are money
wanting
makers
softball.
because people are willing to pay, like adult softball. There's still
Yeah.
people who will pay good money to be in that. So it could be a money-making program.
Well, we're also missing out because we have to use our baseball fields and the outfields for like our football programs. So we can't run competitive in the fall, and we can't rent out. We have so many people that want to use our baseball fields to rent out, but we're like, sorry, we got to use that for football. So if we had another space, we could actually spread out and use fields for what they're supposed to be used for. So there's tons of different ways that we can get revenue if we had the, space and ability and the people to do it.
But to be clear, you're never going to make money on a park.
No. Well,
You're
We're
just gonna be
coming
able to
up.
offset the maintenance expenses.
yeah, it'll
Uh-huh.
offset. Then we do bring in revenue. The one good thing about, not one, there's so many good things about our department, but we do bring in revenue to offset some of the costs.
Yeah.
It's not like the drainers over here.
Makes quite a bit of money off of their one park for 4 days a
Just kidding.
year.
Well, are you telling him to write more tickets? Is that
No,
what you're
I'm
saying?
saying all of them.
Oh,
I'm just saying, we do bring in revenue to offset our costs, which.
And that's
helps.
just it. People
Yeah.
on the rodeo.
Okay,
If you.
Moving on, this is category 2. And then here's our reservation and rental. We do make some, good money with our community center and then our parks. Our parks have been, our parks and our reservations, and then the fees waived. So you're gonna see the red. So the gray is telling you what we're earning. The red is telling you what we're giving away. Because I want you guys to kind of understand and know when we are, Arts Council doesn't have a provided space. They don't have a place to rehearse. So they rehearse, and we block off pretty much from April until almost November. So we're losing over $30,000. That's what, if we charge them what we would make, potential.
So
And when they're in there, we can't bring in a revenue, which we're okay with, but we just want you guys to see, we do bring in $50,000, but we're also giving away.
So do you think there is a need for, if they weren't there, I'm not advocating for anything.
Yeah.
Do you think you could fill it for that whole time?
They do Tuesdays, Thursdays, and then Saturdays. Do I think a lot of Saturdays? Yeah, we have a lot of requests that can do it. Probably not to the every single week like they do. But we do have to turn a lot of people away. Do I think that, eventually we need to look for a space for the Arts Council? Yeah, because they have to modify everything that they have to do to be in our, Arts Council. And then we've got orchestra, they've got orchestra that they're having in there. We have Miss Syracuse that we waive the CTC. We're waiving Quilt Guild and the Arts Guild that comes in once a month. So anytime you do that, it's just taking up a spot. With Arts Council, we've had like this, they'll start next week, and it's every single week on Saturdays. And there's a lot of people that want to use stuff on Saturdays.
So a few questions to add in there. Number one is, have you seen an impact from the library? Because they have a free rental space.
Interesting, you should bring that up.
Thank you.
Because-
I have a follow-on question, so don't take too long.
Okay, I won't. So, the library, they're showing some flexibility now, but in the beginning, they really didn't want any of these type of things. They were too noisy. They were, it's like, we can't have
Is that why
anything that
they have
makes any
doors?
noise.
What's the point of having a
understand,
space
but
if you don't use it?
They don't want something that's heavy traffic, which is again surprising because isn't that what you want? But they were really protective of their space, so they're just barely opening that up at all. But it's really, they're trying to focus on smaller groups.
They need to put a handle on the outside of that door,
Yeah,
Well, and when the
so you don't have
arts,
to walk through the whole library.
they told the Arts Council they just can't use it because they're too noisy and too many people.
But
And
what about piano recitals? Sorry, this is not about the library.
Yeah. we do piano recitals. We have people that will
Yeah.
reserve, piano recitals and things like that. And on Monday nights, we have an Up with Kids that come in and they use it, for 4 to 6 months where they do their own theater class and they rent from us. And so that's straight revenue. We've got stuff like that.
and we wish the library would do more.
I mean, I understand why they don't want piano recital in a library.
We
though.
always did our
But
piano
if you,
recitals in
but their
libraries.
room is set aside, they can close the doors.
We did it in Layton and Clearfield is where all of my kids had their piano recitals.
They're just like separate rooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't disturb the readers.
So I know this has been unpopular in the past, and it's always fun to watch people's faces when I say this. But what about, we have 2 conference rooms that are very but are underutilized at the fire station and the police department.
They're
See,
gonna
that's
go.
why it's always fun.
Sorry, fellas.
They're already using.
Sorry, gentlemen.
So the orchestra already
Yeah.
meets in the police station.
Yeah.
And
The
they
jazz
agreed
band
to do the
also.
jazz band as well. So that's taking up a couple of nights.
But do we have that available for rental?
Can I answer this?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's really difficult when, with us, we have staff there to
Mhm.
watch and make sure they're doing what they need to be doing. They do not. They don't have if you open that up to the PD, that's why I think one of the.
And so you would require staff.
Someone there, yeah.
And then whose department does it fall in? It's their, monitored space, but do you really expect one of them to have an employee monitor that?
I'm just
I
asking the
don't.
question because
I think
it's
again, this
space.
is the question that has to go with that question.
And fire does they'll do their stuff, with their cert and anytime that we need to use it, or even with PD, if we need to use it, they're more than happy to let us use it, so.
Okay.
I'd hate to have one less firefighter go out on a rescue because he was doing a bandage class for young first aiders.
Hey, wait a minute, they already do that. They do
I know.
they do
They do
CPR,
that.
they do.
Okay, but if
Or
we were
young
renting
piano
it out,
players.
then now who has to take care of that?
Yeah, you would, for those type of facilities to work, you need to better isolate it from the public because those are secure facilities. And
But they have lockable doors to access the rest of the building.
that's, if you want to have them, the fire station's a lot better, I think, but you'd also want staff probably a dedicated staff that's probably not in the fire department.
Sure. Okay, I just want to ask a question.
Moving along.
That's Jordan, he lives just over here.
Vision statement number 4.
I ground for you, it's fine.
Syracuse City has a well-organized park improvement and maintenance plan that outlines needed improvements and ensures well-maintained parks and equipment. This one, where did it go? Uh-oh.
Yeah, no, right there.
No. Oh, there's something, it's missing. I'm sure.
Oh, did you send the wrong order?
Now I'm just sad.
No. So I'll just tell you, and it was there just a few minutes ago. What I did.
You might have it hidden
I could have hit it.
if you go out of it.
But you guys have seen the 5-year plan that we have. We have that and we
The one
update it.
we usually scan
Yeah,
stuff on.
it's the working document that we have and we're continually updated. Chad and I are meeting all the time because things will come up and we're shifting stuff around and trying to cover costs. One of the things is at Stoker Park, we were gonna do Stoker Park renovation, remember, this year? Well, because we're not gonna be able to get the tennis court scheduled, then we've switched it around and doing stuff at Fremont Park. So that's continually working all the time to maintain, but you guys can see that. We also have a list offline of all the projects we wanna do, that if we have the money, we will plug it in if we can, so.
So that's a good plug to say that when ideas come forward, we probably check with you guys first before we jump to ideas.
To the 5-year, yeah.
Yeah. Because you guys already have an idea of what makes sense and what we need.
We do have an idea, but we're always open to, to switch that around and move it around and beg, plead and borrow for you guys, because, if you can find the money, we'll do it.
When are our docks going in?
What?
The docks?
Docks.
Yeah,
Oh, the floating dock.
Yeah, I
We're just
mean,
sort
the
of-
RFP is out right now to do the landscaping and everything, and the dock is, it's on order, so.
Yeah, so,
Nice.
yeah, it's gonna look nice, hopefully by May. We'll get it in, so. Okay, and then the other things is we have maintenance plans. So we had a list of all the different maintenance plans that we take care of. Chad has done a wonderful job in the Parks Division of making sure that we have monthly, weekly, daily checks that they're taking care of our fertilizer plan. What other ones am I missing? Anything?
Yeah, just a lot of maintenance checklists, whether it's equipment or it's facilities, as well as the community center.
Yeah.
We have a lot of inspections and things that we have to do on a daily, monthly, annually basis, playground inspections. Brings up, Chloe's playground,
Yeah.
that's in very dire need of
closed?
repair.
I'm gonna say, is
And
it,
it's
is the closure?
yeah, it's to the point where it's just too unsafe.
Wow.
And so,
What put-
I see kids
Well,
chucking
right
the
here.
stuff at each
Oh.
other.
yeah,
Because they'll just
Yeah,
go
I
and
know,
pull it
these
up.
like frisbees. They love
And
that.
just like Chad is saying, is we've been trying since last March to get that company
It's still
here.
under.
It's still under warranty. This is the
right?
last warranty that we would have. And so, we've been doing our best to even get bids, because if this doesn't come through, what it's gonna cost. And the bid that we got today was
186K, yeah.
to
To
redo
redo
that.
it.
whole
What
thing.
if
That's
from-
the lowest.
So it's still under warranty from the company though?
It's still under warranty right now. It was last year. So
When you made the claim.
when we
right?
made the
Yeah.
claim, it was, and it's gotten worse and worse. And we're telling you, we are texting, we are emailing all of the time.
Where's this?
It's Great
company?
Western.
Where are they
And
based
so-
out of?
They're based out of Logan. Part of the problem is it has to be a certain temperature before you can do it. And that was kind of part of the
I'd be
issue.
down for a drive.
Yeah, so they're trying, but even with that patchwork, if you guys have seen, they cut it out and patch, so we really gotta be looking forward to replacing that, to get it up to.
And the sad thing is even when they come in and repair,
Mhm.
it's still in a condition where it's not going to withstand any traffic because of some obstacles, I think, that went in the installation process, as well as when they came and did their repairs, they just came in just to say they did it and not really went to the effort to adhere to the existing surfacing. So it's really in bad shape. And I think regardless, even if they come in and do these repairs, we're still looking at doing something to try to overhaul it and either take some layer, the very top surface off and redo it, because it's in really bad shape and it just doesn't withstand any kind of traffic.
I think we
or high
should switch
use.
to what they did in St. George.
What?
They had like a green turf type stuff.
Artificial turf.
Well, it's like.
I just watched a thing
it's
on
like
how
a
they laid
carpet.
that.
It's like a
Yeah,
carpet.
It
But
is,
anyway.
and it's amazing,
Yeah.
actually, and it stays super
Yeah, we've looked into that.
traffic friendly.
There's some concerns, I think, with a lot of these people have with the artificial turf is the heat.
Mhm.
But I mean,
But that stuff gets hot
it's,
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's, I
It's
mean,
rubber.
you're splitting hairs,
I mean,
right?
Well, this one's not quite rubber. I don't think it's, I don't know what it is. It's some sort of plasticky.
Are you talking about
Yeah.
the stuff here?
Yeah,
junction.
over-
Oh, down at
There.
the junction? Yeah,
Oh.
it was more of a
Yeah,
carpet.
it's like a roll-on.
Oh, I meant this here is
Oh,
rubber
sorry.
and it's hot,
Yeah.
so. it would-
So we're looking at
sixes.
to patch it right now, but if not, then we'll be coming back to figure out how we're gonna adjust that. in
Just
that
out of
5 year.
curiosity, so if they come in and patch it and just do a temporary, are they gonna cover everything, all the damage that's has occurred since the time the warrant or the claim was made?
Well, they'll come in and they'll patch
Everything that's-
everything.
okay.
They'll patch it all, but like you
6
said,
months
it's
later,
not
we'll be
always.
back in.
Yeah, and it's never held up great. We've always been
Is that an
patching.
issue with the lowest bidder? Is that one, do we run into this often? Because I'm just thinking, we have several things and.
She has a story about the installation that you should hear.
Yeah,
sometime.
one of these times we'll tell you, they told us and guaranteed us that they would do something. It ended up being bad weather and we had tents and things over it. And so we feel like that's part of an issue, is that the way that it didn't bond correctly.
And is that our fault or theirs?
Well, it was kind of joint. We agreed to let them do it,
See what I'm
but the
getting at?
warranty that they put in, and that's why they've been,
So when it came up, we wanted to get it done. And
There was a deadline.
And it was 1 week in November when they were here from Las Vegas to get it done. We had like winter weather. They said, we can still do this and it would still be covered by warranty.
Yeah.
And
And
so
it messed up and now they're not
that
coming
gave
out to
us,
fix
that
their
gave us
warranty.
confidence to move forward. But I think we found that they probably shouldn't have
yeah.
done it.
And they're not admitting that that's the issue. We're just thinking that that's
Yeah.
probably the big issue. So
I wonder if we called a comparable company out to see if the installation of it could have been a factor in it, if it would.
and we've went with different companies. That's
Well, it's
we've
out
got
of
like
warranty
2
though
or 3
now after
different-
this.
Yeah, after this it
So
is.
wouldn't really
Yeah.
cost
Yeah.
too much at this point, I wonder.
Yeah, it was 5
All
years.
right.
So
All right, let's keep going then.
okay, we're done with our statements and now we're on to the fun stuff for our future consideration. So we're going to talk about our personnel and organization, parkland acquisition, cemetery expansion, and our irrigation needs. This is the fun part. You guys ready? This is gonna show. Okay. So this is what our staffing analysis. Councilmember Watson asked, like, why do you guys need this? And we asked for the things. And so we went through and we went and got all of our comparable cities to show you the acreage that we have compared to our full-time equivalents. And then the acres that they're maintaining per one, right?
Per employee.
Per employee. And then this is where we're at. And as you can see, we're at the very bottom.
Are you saying Centerville has one employee that basically mans 4.2 acres and our
Yeah.
one employee mans 11.6?
Yes.
That's what she said.
That's
And
what
this
she
is
said.
allotted, this is what we were allotted through the budget.
Yeah.
And so that's not even the actual, because on average, our seasonal employees that we get and
How?
receive is not even 50% of the hours that we're needing. So really, it's 14.5 acres per individual is where we're at.
I have a hard time with 8.2. So I don't know how you guys are doing that.
So, and on like what Chad said, what I like to look at is we're allotted
lot.
12 seasonal employees right now. So to me, I always look at it as like, that is 12 full-time employees that we get for 6 months out of the year. Now, our season's really 8 months, but we get them we're supposed to get them for 6 months out of the year. And we should have 12,480 hours total.
But we don't.
But we don't. We're getting those full-time for 6 months, only for 2.5 months.
And
We're
that's a
getting
lot
them
of
for
hard
5,000.
labor.
So what's happening is our 7 full-time, which we're very grateful for, but our 7 full-time, in the shoulders are now taking over our mow crew, our seasonal jobs, which makes it very difficult not to only do the seasonal job, but also to do all the other things like that we're supposed to do with clean bathrooms, our tree maintenance, our weeds, taking care of the parking lots. And I mean, just there's a whole list of things and projects that we do on a daily basis, that when that happens in the middle of August, because all we're getting is really college students, when they leave in August, our guys are in like fight or flight mode. They are no longer doing their full-time jobs and they are becoming our seasonals for, the rest of the season.
That is such
And
hard
I'm going to
labor.
be honest with you, it's been a mental take on all of them. When you are like gaping wound and we're putting Band-Aids on things, it's an issue. Last year was very, very, very difficult.
And
to
I
get
think
that.
we need to consider converting some of those seasonals to full-time. I mean, yeah, it's gonna be not 1-to-1, but we can count on full-time, we can't count on seasonals.
Right. And when we look at that, that's where we're at the point where it's like, we have so much pride in what we do that there are people that are just putting in so much overtime and work to make it still happen. But there's going to have to be things, we're going to have to make some decisions. If we can't get people, there's going to be some decisions we're going to have to make. We can't maintain the way that we're maintaining. And this is just now. We're now going to be getting, probably another linear park, and we're going to have to be maintaining the things that are coming off the freeways, the parks. And I say this to Jordan all the time. we want to do all the things you guys want us to do, all the projects that we want to do, but it's hard to get excited when you're like, how are we gonna maintain that?
How do you not just break down? Like, honestly, like I would have an emotional breakdown. Like, I'm not kidding. Looking at these numbers and knowing how hard it is to maintain outdoor facilities or outdoor anything and how exhausting that labor is. I don't know how they keep doing it. It's impressive that they do because our parks look really good, but man, that's.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're
Jess.
good. I do it all the
was gonna
time.
Say, how much of this do we contract out?
We contract out a small portion just for our entryways, but we've looked at contracting out and it is really expensive to do because not only that, they're gonna come through and just mow our parks one time. There are parks that you have to maintain you have to mow it, 2 to 3 times.
So for instance, our contract right now is only for 2 acres and it's $35,000 a year for 2 acres.
How many times to mow that 2 acres?
They were
Once a week.
And to do irrigation.
And to kind of monitor.
We're getting
This is
ripped
where,
off.
yeah, we've got some ideas here.
So, yeah, so I mean.
I want to hire robot mowers.
Yes.
I'm serious. They have them and they're good. And it may be expensive, but at least they don't call in sick or they don't go back to school or they.
You have a point.
I want a robot line painter.
And we
With
talked about that.
reflective paint, please.
Turf.
Turf tank.
Nick is like, yes, please. No, and Jordan brought that up and Mayor brought that up. But I said we wanted to let Clearfield pay that money first. Use it as guinea pigs and then we'll see how it actually works because you don't want to pay that $50,000 and then realize, well, it's not really working.
So part of our deal on Friday is we do want to look into all these other alternatives because I mean, like some of these golf course mowers, they're robotic. You can, one guy could supervise multiple mowers and you could be done in half the time, load them on the trailer, go to the next park. And he doesn't have to do anything, but, get them started and do some other things.
Have a soda.
He can be doing the bathrooms while they're going.
And we're hoping that this year with that bump up in the wages that we're gonna actually get some seasonals and actually have a full staff of seasonals, because I don't know that we've had a full staff of even our seasonals like for the whole time, whole time.
Well, I mean, and then really the moral of the seasonal issue is we're only getting them for 3 months and we need them for 8 months. We're only allowed 6 months. So it ends up coming only 41% of the hours that we actually are receiving the help. So even if we were to get more seasonals, the ones that we do get are only working 3 months and then they're gone. And so there's no alleviation on the shoulder seasons. And we are having to pick and choose what we should and shouldn't do. And it's just,
you're not
it's
getting the
working.
restrooms cleaned every daily. There's no way that we can do that. We're, deep cleaning them once a week, things like that.
And it's really important things like being able to do safety checks on playgrounds more often and to really, go through and evaluate our equipment and make sure that the maintenance is getting properly done. So in
Replace
3 months,
drumsticks and
here comes
Yeah.
$50,000 for another piece of equipment because we didn't have time to really do our due diligence. So it's just, it adds up.
And then that's what our full-time staff does. We are in the off season. We are catching up on all the projects. Like they are busy. And I think that that's one of the big questions we always got. Well, what are you going to use full-timers for in the off season? We are constantly busy. It's like really 4 months out of the year and they are, maintaining equipment to like painted up the restrooms all inside, got rid of all of the graffiti. There's always a project that we are doing. They're staying busy.
You guys are like farmers. There's always something.
And
There's
really
always something.
the biggest,
Off your season.
It's crazy.
the biggest thing that we weren't able to touch on with our maintenance programs and what we've tried to really do in our off season is where we've kind of created a program called Syracuse Parks U, where it's an ability to really train people on a lot of the things that they really need to know how to do, because during now until the end of October to November, we don't have legitimate time to train anybody, and it's very scarce when we get to actually buckle down and do it, and it's scary because it's not fair to us or the individual coming on. So that's where we're really trying to utilize that and do these odd and end projects that there's no way you could get to during the season.
Yeah. Well, the Parks U thing is really cool. They, you know, if you guys know like seasonals, I know Brody does. There's some, and Steve, there's some claims during the season because they can start and train probably. But they've created this so that we're gonna train, they'll be trained in a week and all the things that they need to take them over, learn how to back up, learn how to take things wide. I mean, it's really a cool thing that they've created. I'm really excited for it, but.
Vinyl fences don't hold up to lawnmowers too well.
No matter how many times you tell them to do the push mower against the fence, it's just like.
Or gates, right?
Gates, they took out Robert's gate. Trailers, I mean, so to take that time at the beginning and to really be able to train them, but really we're in fight or flight mode.
People don't realize how important that is.
Yeah.
Like you can't, you think a lot of that is just like, oh, well, this might be common sense. No, it's not. And you have to excessively train some people to the point where it's like, never mind, I'll just do it myself.
Teaching my daughter to drive has been terrifying.
I'm great at that. You should send her to me. I'm great at that.
Now
Half the kids in my neighborhood learned how to drive my Jeep. I'm telling you.
And we just barely did a training with a monthly training and our parks division was over and they took us over there and even they had me backing up the trailer and it is definitely, I'm like, woohoo, all of you guys that do it all the time. It's amazing because but just how to,
Bring your hand on the bottom.
Get a really small one. Get a small one and learn how to do that. You can do the bigger ones just fine.
Bigger ones are easy.
We're pulling big trailers.
Single axle, if you really want to have trouble, go for it.
Okay, so
Anyways,
moving on.
Moving on, sorry about that. Okay, so you have this, and then this is what.
So what you're saying is you're understaffed.
Big time.
Got it.
So we're trying to explain when we asked
With
for
every
the
other
6
department.
positions we did, of why. And we asked for those 6 full-time positions in February, but then we went back and we really sat down and thought like, when we go to the deep dive again, we really think through things and we talk with Brody and how can we make this work better for our department? And we found that we want to kind of restructure our department a little bit and add some managers in places where the crew leads were, because when we did this compression, they're almost making that anyways. We want to be able to have accountability for them, and then it's just going to be better. Do you want to add something to that?
I mean, yeah, what ended up happening, because it's a little slightly different than crew leads in other departments, but where we were kind of missing links, we had to have a snowball effect and their responsibilities increased. And it was very, very hard to benchmark that because that position by title in other cities was not at all comparable in responsibilities. So they really were getting the short end of the stick. And so we had to figure out a way, and this is a way where it's actually more of their responsibility and they can actually be held more accountable and it will trickle. And I think the biggest thing, it's going to allow for growth.
Yeah.
And it'll allow for us to maneuver through as we build out and we, get all these new properties that are developed and whatnot. So.
Yeah, like Chad said, the crew leads in most of the cities and even in public works, they're not overseeing full-time employees, but ours are. And so that's why we want to obviously make that. But by making that change and then not adding a crew leader, but adding another maintenance person, because that's what we need is the worker bees. We need those worker bees down there. And so by doing that, you can see the difference that just making those changes went from 487,000 to 361.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So on your current request under Department of Admin Division,
yes,
it looks like you're asking for 2 full-times, not 1.
You're not, because I'm gonna get there and
Okay, sorry.
explain to
I
you.
will.
So we're asking for 4, and one of the questions Chad and I talked about is like, once they see that, they're gonna say like, why are you only asking for 4? But one of the reasons is obviously there's other departments to consider. It's not just about us. We don't want to just be like us, but we talked about it. And the reason why we did 4 is because with 4, you can manage and have them be a mow crew so that we can take those new 4 and instead of taking all of our 7 and trying to work it around that, we can at least alleviate some. And our full-timers that we have right now are not just becoming mow crew.
And then can I add? So
Yeah.
Jordan, Well, you're talking about the half part-time admin assistant / cemetery sexton. So what it is right now there's one full-time position that serves as the cemetery sexton or the assistant cemetery sexton and the special events coordinator. So that individual or that position, we would split it and add another part-time position to each side of that position.
I understand.
And now it's really
So one of those is pre-existing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now it's become.
Because when we get the parks maintenance facility, we're gonna need an admin assistant down there. So that at least, eventually we're gonna need that down there. So by doing that, and then what we've looked at doing is they'll be alleviated, obviously, the special event coordinator will be alleviated, and then we can make some adjustments where they may be over the front desk staff, which will help alleviate the recreation, which Nick's over. We'll be able to, help alleviate that so that we can do the extra stuff. And then the recreation coordinator, you saw all those things we want to do. We're at the max in the sense of like mental too. When you have these big programs and you have 2 coordinators and a manager and you're trying to manage all that, and then trying to add all these little things on top of it because we want to do all of these things, it makes it difficult. So if we want to add programs to add revenue, we're going to need to add a coordinator. So that's just a decision that you guys will have to
Spend
make.
money to make money.
Yeah. So this is kind of what the new suggested changes would be, because right now we have Chad is a direct report to me, but I also have the recreation manager as a direct report. So by doing this, it kind of clears up the water. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard about not serving 2 masters. It's been very difficult for the recreation manager because they have me they answer to, but they also have Chad. And so sometimes, and Chad and I have all our expectations are the same of what we expect, but we do manage differently. And so sometimes it's really hard for the rec manager to ever feel like, they don't know if they're coming or going. And then by having the operations managers up there, then we're setting it up like we are the other departments, like your police department, your fire department. At some point, I think your public works, if they get their assistant director, so that we have the assistant director and then our managers reporting to them, and then obviously the assistant director reporting to me. The blue is what you're seeing is those 2 split. And if that split, then we would have those responsibilities to free up our recreation manager would go under that coordinator because they'd be losing some of their responsibilities. Does that make sense? You have the crew leaders there that are open. And why we did that is kind of an orange is we would not backfill those positions right now. We do not have people that have the experience to be in the crew leader position. Those would just be there so that when that time comes, it could be, but those would stay open. And then the 4 shows the 4 new maintenance.
And I think to this, what another one of our goals is to try to create a career for individuals, because at that entry level, we've had so much turnover, and obviously a lot of it is doing with pay. But the other thing is they feel like they were closed off. There's no progression, there's no ladder for them. And if you do that, you're just constantly turning over and trying to backfill a position. And these last 3 or 4 years, we went without a position filled for over a year. And so it was very, very difficult. And if we have at least the opportunity for somebody to work towards something, along with our compensation plan and everything, then we hopefully can get individuals to see the light at the end of the tunnel and see a progression and work towards it. Because too much, especially in our field, people, oh, you just cut grass or you just do this. And it's like, there's so much more to it. And if they can see a career out of it and gain pride, and then it's going to show out on the streets and the parks and all the stuff where we take care of.
And we did talk about this a little bit in recruitment and retention, that some of these positions in the city kind of need to see a potential, even if those positions are not always filled. They need to see the potential to move towards something. Otherwise, they're looking for a new career because the top positions don't look like they're going to retire anytime soon. So there's really nowhere to go.
Yeah. And then just so that you would know, our operations managers, one would be over passive spaces and one would be over our active spaces. And that's just more accountability. Anything in those parks they're maintaining, they're taking care of. That's an easy way for Chad to be able to hold them accountable too, because if it's in the active space, we know that we need to go to Braxton and take care of that. If it's, and cemetery is part of the passive spaces, and so is the trails.
Identifiable boundaries.
Yes.
Beautiful.
It makes it good. It just helps with accountability. Okay, moving on. Woohoo, right, we made it through the staffing. The next one is acquisition of lands. And as you guys remember, you guys have decided that we're going to take our park impact fees and 50% is going to go to looking to buy land and 50% to develop land. So we just wanted to give you to think about this and get this in the back of your head that where we're at right now. For current right now, we wouldn't have to buy or acquire any. We just have to develop, obviously. But at 40,000, which is a 5 to 10 year, we got with Noah and talked about some projections with him. If we get to 40,000, we're going to need to develop 77 acres. And then you have the 2 build outs. Now we had to do build outs because in our master plan, our parks master plan, we have it at 50,000. But when we talk with Noah, the master plan is 60,000. So we gave you both. And then you guys can just see, and you can't see it very good, but there's just areas. And I know that Mayor Mon and you guys and Mayor Gailey have been talking to people about trying to get land, and really there's not a whole lot of land left and people don't want to give it up, but we just want to always keep that in your mind, because again, there isn't a lot of land. So
For the new people, I would be careful to say that while we said we would devote money, we also realized that land acquisition is about opportunity. If there's no opportunity, or if it doesn't look like it's desirable land, but it is the opportunity, we need to go forward with that.
We did acquire land behind the equestrian park.
Yeah, we did.
Yep,
and that was a good opportunity. Yeah. But
yep. The next thing is cemetery expansion. Just so that you guys know, we're actually meeting and talking about this tomorrow. But we sold the cemetery property, and we're always like, when we're looking for money, we're like, oh, we sold the cemetery property. But we need to always honestly look and say we all have to take some of that money and actually develop this, because we're at 580 plots. We're averaging, the last 4 years, we averaged 144 plots per year. And so we'll have all of our plots sold if we keep going on that track in FY26. So we need to have that plan and start developing it, unless we want to get out of the cemetery business.
just tell me when the new plots are available.
Yeah.
I just want to buy one of the new ones because I was here when we got that started.
Yes.
So it's sentimental that I want to be buried
Your
on the new
funeral
section.
plot is sentimental?
You bet.
Okay, sir.
There's
You
also
bet.
gonna be like
Put 'em on the
a
line.
cremation
I
garden.
plan to be there a while.
We're seeing a lot more of cremation, so there'll be.
I'm gonna get cut
Yes,
down
if
for
we can
firewood, it's
flip 'em,
fine.
Yeah.
We'll make some money.
We'll
on
stack
this.
them, whatever.
Fixer uppers.
We're almost there, guys. This is our last slide. The
Good.
next one is
Sorry.
Dave. The next one is our irrigation needs, and we have been working very closely with Robert and Ryan Mills on, issues that we had with pressure and our water quality. And so you guys can see where the spots are. We're not getting, because of the volume and the usage, and the certain times you can see how it's dipping down. This was at Rock Creek from July 14th to the July 20th. You can see, each night it'll dip down. When you're doing a park, to try to get those heads to come up and actually throw water, it's not like, people think it's like your own yard, and it's not.
No, they're so excessive.
It's not. And so when we're all turning on at the same time of night, then it's dropping low. So what we're wanting to do is get booster pumps in some of these parks, your Rock Creek, which we're already in the process of, Founders Park, the Linear Park, because we have water issues, and then Centennial, because we have a very, very small time frame to do Centennial Park, because we have, the splash pad. And if you saw it last year, there was, and the water pressure. And if you saw that last year, there was hardly, any.
Are we watering at night?
We water at night.
We tried to.
We
We
try
should,
to.
yeah.
We try to, but
There's
Last
We
year
no
we
pressure.
had
There's
to-
challenges
we had to
there.
do it
Challenges.
earlier 'cause
Everybody
it
else is
wouldn't-
watering.
And so that's why we're talking
Well,
about. booster pumps.
don't everybody normally water first thing in the morning or right?
Everyone
No,
waters at
midnight,
different times.
yeah.
And the
Oh, my
sprinkler
neighborhood's
heads,
first thing in the morning.
the sprinkler heads here require a higher.
Yeah.
The sprinkler heads require higher pressure to actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Then
they're like
More-
arena
more
sprinklers.
than your normal residential head.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, your design is based off of the distance between head-to-head coverage. And so if
Yeah.
you don't have the proper pressure, then you aren't able to create the coverage, which, you know, this picture on the left is what you develop, is all these crop circles and these dead areas. So you have to compensate for that. And if the water, you know, if it's not done naturally, or if it's not done through the system, the delivery system to the park, then you have to compensate for it. And we're looking for the booster pump option.
Do booster pumps actually, I feel like if the pressure isn't keeping up with the booster pump, wouldn't the pipe just run dry? And then you're not pumping anything?
So pressure
No,
and
it keeps up.
demand are different.
I know.
So if
It'll
you,
have to come out of like retention.
so it has, so the if the water is there, then the pump is going to be able to have a threshold of where it should be at. If it goes below it, it has
So
that.
I just feel bad for all the neighbors because they'll get nothing.
You are right. Our cemetery has a booster pump, and the people around them know that, you know, they try to get opposite of our schedule. The high school has a booster pump. So like Monterey Park, like there's no window.
Already doesn't.
There's no window, so that's why we have to go to a booster pump so we can battle.
Level the playing field.
Level the playing field.
Ding, ding, ding.
Water the playing field.
Bet.
Exactly. Peace.
And we're also working with the conservation ideas. We're obviously getting all of our smart clocks. We've got them in the budget. I think we've got two that we still need to get.
Just 2 more.
And then everything, we talked about adding the booster pumps. One of the great ideas and the Mayor Mom was talking about is adding water storage in our parks. And by doing that, we can reuse our stormwater and surface drainage of our irrigation water. So that's something we want to look into. And then obviously we're converting our park strips and low usage turf. The picture below is actually the automated filters. And that's where we're saying, like, you guys know, you can get out there and clean your filter, but when we're having to do that every day, that takes a lot of time away from our staff. So by having it automated, that's the way that we're trying to be more efficient. So anything else you want to add there? All right, guys. Woo!
Good job.
Questions?
I think we
Great job.
asked them throughout.
Okay, yeah, let's move on.
We're
Sorry.
done.
I know.
Cool.
Sorry, but we've got just a couple more items.
Oh, we
So,
do?
yeah, so I'm trying to keep us on a schedule.
We're done.
I thought we
No,
were.
now you
it.
got to go into the closed
No,
session.
okay, so really quick, does anybody have an announcement that needs to be made tonight? Because if it's not, let's,
Nothing important.
Museum birthday, May 14th.
okay, any others? Okay, all right, so I take a motion to move into closed session.
I so move. Into closed session.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, let's clear the room.